receiving this transmission. You are the resistance.
Well, North Korea is saying they're going to detonate a hydrogen bomb above ground somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, just begging to be destroyed. And Trump is announcing new sanctions as this crisis goes stratospheric and possibly thermonuclear. Here is the president's announcement earlier today.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll leave it. I'll just get this one. Today I'm announcing a new executive order we just signed that significantly expands our authorities to target individuals, companies, financial institutions that finance and facilitate trade with North Korea. As I outlined at my address to the United Nations General Assembly, North Korea's nuclear weapons and missile development is a grave threat to peace and security in our world, and it is unacceptable that others financially support this criminal rogue regime. The brutal North Korean regime does not respect its own citizens or the sovereignty of other nations. Our new executive order will cut off sources of revenue that fund North Korea's efforts to develop the deadliest weapons known to humankind. The order enhances the Treasury Department's authorities to target any individual or entity that conducts significant trade in goods, services, or technology with North Korea. And I'm very proud to tell you that, as you may have just heard moments ago, China, their central bank, has told their other banks, that's a massive banking system, to immediately stop doing business with North Korea. This just happened. It's just reported. In addition to everything else, what we will do is identify new industries, including textiles, fishing, information technology, and manufacturing, that the Treasury Department can target with strong sanctions. And Secretary Mnuchin is representing the Treasury Department. He's here today to prevent sanctions evasion. The order also includes measures designed to disrupt critical North Korean shipping and trade networks. For much too long, North Korea has been allowed to abuse the international financial system to facilitate funding for its nuclear weapons and missile programs. The United States has had representatives working on this problem for over 25 years. They have done nothing. That's why we're in the problem that we're in today, in addition to, frankly, other countries not doing what they should have done. Tolerance for this disgraceful practice must end now. Our new order will give the Treasury Department the discretion to sanction any foreign bank that knowingly conducts or facilitates significant transactions tied to trade with North Korea. And again, I want to just say and thank President Xi of China for the very bold move he made today. That was a somewhat unexpected move, and we appreciate it. New authority in this area applies to any activity that occurs following my signature on the executive order, which I have actually just signed. Foreign banks will face a clear choice: do business with the United States or facilitate trade with the lawless regime in North Korea, and they won't have so much trade. This new order provides us with powerful new tools, but I want to be clear, the order targets only one country, and that country is North Korea. The regime can no longer count on others to facilitate its trade and banking activities. Many countries are working with
Ladies and gentlemen, again, that's excerpts of a press conference last night. There's been another one today as well we'll have for you. It's all coming up.
I want freedom! That's what I want, and that's what you should want!
You don't stand up for the Constitution, you stand for zip, not a zero.
Sir, do you remember the First Amendment? Remember private property?
I said the 91. I said the war is just begun.
Talk about Clinton shipping Russia military armaments right now.
Well, I think we have to resist at every level.
America first! You heard that before? Those of us that are into facts, we're the enemy.
All we want you to do is think for yourself, be baptized in the truth.
Alex Jones isn't going away.
Here we are knocking on the controlled media window. Uh-oh, it's our tax dollars at work.
The New World Order isn't coming, it's here.
The price of liberty and freedom is eternal vigilance.
You're the key to standing up against the New World Order, also known as globalism.
More people wake up. Every passing day, your tyranny bleeds to death.
I'm standing up against those that are destroying this country as we speak.
I just want to finish by saying your reputation's amazing. I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed, I hope.
Rallying patriots worldwide in defense of human liberty. It's Alex Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday. Hard to believe it's already the 22nd day of September 2017. And we live in just an incredibly bizarre world. I've talked a lot about this. And even though North Korea threatening to test a hydrogen bomb above ground on an unnamed Pacific island, even though that is a real hallmark of World War III and the possible destruction of our planet, the underlying cause of it is evil. And 22 years ago on air, I didn't talk like that. 10 years ago on air, I didn't do that. But the more research I do, you just run into Satanists and pedophiles every time. It's the same thing from China to Russia to the United States to Mexico. It's the same thing powering the drug cartels in Mexico, Satanism. They're public about it. It's the same thing powering the Vatican. It's the same thing powering much of the CIA. It is a bunch of weak scum trying to play God and trying to run our lives. And I've talked about how, with relish, with extreme enjoyment, with raptured delight, all over Europe, they're taking Protestant and Catholic and Orthodox churches that in many cases governments seize. They take them, saying we're taking away your tax exemption, and they house Muslims in them. And then they have Islamic art displays and bring the school children there to Islamify them. They don't take school children to churches and teach them about Christ. They take them to Muslim churches. That is, churches that have been converted to Islamic brainwashing bases. Without looking, I have a stack of this today that just shows up in my stack as the crew prints basically all the front page articles of more than 10 major news sites a day. Most of the news, when I come in and thumb through it, I've already looked at it, seen it. But constantly, there's stuff I hadn't seen, just piles of it. And then you get banning outdoor Oktoberfest in Germany. Then in Malaysia, they ban Beer Fest because the Muslims will kill you. But that's okay because you go out to a liberal demonstration, they're handing hijabs out to women to wear them in solidarity and telling us how Islam is the best thing in the world when it's 180 degrees the opposite of our Western culture. And I've got a stack of news here. We're in court in the U.S. and Canada and Europe. Muslims won't even stand up when they've attacked, stabbed, robbed, killed people. But it's gotten so bad, the Muslim refugees working for Uber in London, that they've banned Uber now because of hundreds of sexual assaults. And I've got more. Same thing here in the U.S. Why is this happening? Because it is the culture of Islam that if you're not wearing a hood over your head, you're fair game to be raped in Pakistan or Saudi Arabia or in Libya now that it's been liberated from Gaddafi that, you know, basically banned the hijab. Don't worry, he's gone now, and the jihadis are in, and they have these women in bondage. And there's the left telling you how great it is and sending schooner boats across every hour to ferry people into Italy. 80+% And I've seen the videos, more like 100% military-age men. It is a takeover. We've been taught to be totally wide open, to have no immune system, politically or culturally or spiritually, and now we're being assaulted by authoritarianism based on a religious system so vicious, so dangerous, so unstable, that it wrecks every country that's 100% Muslim. They can't stop killing each other. Because it's always the most radical who wants to identify themselves to separate themselves from the other Muslims, so it gets more radical, and it moves the peg in the Overton window so far into extremism that it just goes into insanity. Selling 5-year-old girls into sex slavery. 100+ men raping a 7-year-old girl till she died in Syria. Eating priest hearts on television. Having 7-year-old boys go and execute tied-up prisoners. That's all the stuff they're doing. They're proud of it. So I have a stack of news where they're desecrating churches all over Europe, turning them into Islamic centers, government-funded, where they take school children to learn about bombs and the hijab and actually tell them it's good. Just like the police chief last week, a major city in Finland, said, we're going to put terrorists in schools. They put adults in high schools. They call them little boys. Like the 2 guys that were reported in the bombing last week in London. Oh, one was 21, one was 18. And they were called boys, refugees that came in the last 2 years and were living with an old couple. And they call them their little boys. They're little jihadis that blow up the train. And then the police chief says, quote, we're going to put terrorists in classes because terrorists can teach us multiculturalism. That's a quote. You can't make this up. And from Indonesia, we're showing footage of that right now, to Canada, the takeover's happening. Yeah, the footage we've got on screen is the Philippines. So why do I mention that? Because to the globalists, to the pedophile armies, they love Islam because it's right there in the Quran that you can marry a 9-year-old girl. It's right there that you can... Gay sex is illegal between 2 adult men. But if you're an adult man and it's a boy, oh, then it's okay. So pedophilia is actually enshrined. And that's why the left loves it. They're going for it because they are now the pedophile, Satanist, degenerate party. They go to their events. They will tell you. They will publish in major leftist publications drooling, disgusting, fat slobs showing videos of 5-year-old girls dancing, telling you how much they want to have sex with them. You say, why would they do that? Because they want to throw it in your face and rub it in your face. Just like they want to give nuclear weapons and missiles to North Korea. It's satanic. Look at the demon eyes on that guy. They all got the same eyes. Now, why did I mention that? It looks like It the Clown, literally. Notice that. It's It the Clown right there. They always look like that. Now, this article is by Shepard Ambulance. We want to get on the show. Great Infowars.com reporter. Illuminati-themed fashion show held at London Catholic Church. And, of course, the church went along with it. This is liberal. Just like the Pope said this year, it disgusted him to hear about Europe's Christian roots. He says, let in the Muslims. Merge with it. And now they have fashion shows of people dressed up the way you dress up for a satanic orgy, right out of Eyes Wide Shut. It's the accoutrement that I will guarantee you is used probably in that church. You know what they do in the Canadian Parliament? I've actually had members of the Parliament on. It's come out in major publications that they built the Canadian Parliament in Ottawa to carry out satanic rituals. Oh, yes. And so now their ultimate fun is to do it in a church. But now, I mean, this itself is an act of Satanism to carry out a satanic ritual in a church. The only thing better is to kill a child. And I'm not going to get into what they do on the altars, but they eat crap, everything else to degrade God's temple to bring in the demons, to open the gates. Whether you believe in Satan or not, Satan believes in you, and these people believe in Satan. And you better believe that it's coming out the former prime ministers and others on a routine basis have little orphan girls brought into their offices. They lay the plastic out on the floor, and they slit those little girls' throats and those little boys' throats. And a lot of the elites don't even touch the body. They just pleasure themselves while the child flops around like a fish out of water, gasping for air. So you just remember that, and you remember that real good, what you're signing on to right now. It's up on drudgereport.com right now. Parental discretion is advised, even though we're blurring these images. By the way, I'm the only person in the last 18 years to interview Vivian Kubrick, who was the only member of his family that worked on the films. Before he died, she was basically co-director, but she won't brag and say that. But I've talked to folks in Hollywood. She did the music on Full Metal Jacket, a lot of other stuff. And she told me the secrets of that, and her dad was not involved in it. But obviously her dad was told what was going on in Hollywood. And I know more. But I was told it in confidence, and so I just can't tell you. But that is Vivian Kubrick. That is Stanley Kubrick's daughter. And she was his protege. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with another Satanist with nuclear weapons, Kim Jong-un, given the sword of death by the Clintons. Stay with us. I'm going to get more into the article up on newswars.com and infowars.com. Illuminati-themed fashion show held at London Catholic Church. This went up late last night. It's already rolled off the main page of infowars.com. The biggest place and easiest place to find is drudgereport.com, but I'm going to ask the guys to put that back to the top of infowars.com because it is unbelievable. This is a full-out satanic ritual with all the proper equipment, is what the Satanists call it, in your face, disguised as a fashion show in a lesser magic action to rub the blasphemy in your face. And only the Christians are to be barred from the internet. Only the Christians are to be persecuted. The Islamicists will be held up on the highest pedestal. Now, that's in the West. The Muslims will also be used as the great weapon in India against the Hindus and the Buddhists, who they are allowed to slaughter at leisure with enjoyment. And the media also basically agrees to that and says that's a wonderful thing. It's truly amazing. They estimate 140+ million Hindus alone have been murdered by Muslims just in India in the last 1,000 years. And then you look at all the other places that were Buddhist, all over the Pacific. No, no, no. You convert or you, what? You die. And now the few areas where they've let the Muslims in that were still Christian or Buddhist in the Pacific are now being stabbed and bombed and shot and killed, from the Philippines to Malaysia. And the governments are agreeing. They're saying, that's right, no more beer. We're going to do what the Muslims say. We're going to bend over. We're going to follow their orders. Because if you don't, you're hateful. Isn't that nice? Good, 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 good. So that's all coming up. You know, I have a headline out there today on one of our live streams. Mainstream media ask if tomorrow is going to be the end of the world. And there's such fake news that when I cover this, they're going to say I'm saying this. Because it's okay for them to cover it, but not for us to cover it. And I'm saying it's pure bull. But usually when you got one of these churches or groups saying the end of the world is on a date, they don't have the atmosphere we have of all these disasters and threats of nuclear war and craziness going on with the backdrop. But I'm saying we're still going to be here tomorrow. But coming up, the next segment, I'll get to North Korea. The man whose biblical doomsday claim has some nervously eyeing September 23rd. And it's the same old stuff. You know, the Nibiru's going to get us. Well, where's this runaway planet? We know there's extra planets in the Kuiper Belt. We know some of them have elliptical orbits and do come through. The ancients all tracked them. We know they can come pretty close to the Earth and have caused earthquakes and things before. We know asteroids so big have hit the Earth, you can consider them to be planetoids. So I'm not saying this stuff doesn't happen. But if it was coming in tomorrow, baby, it looked like the moon by now. I've been hearing for 22 years on air that Nibiru and Planet Possum is going to come kill us next week. And every time I report, oh, look, there really is a bunch of Planet X's, and they do have elliptical orbits, and they have come by the Earth before. And the media goes, look, Jones says we're all dead. No, that's not. You're the ones reporting on that. I'm reporting on the rest of the story. The man whose biblical doomsday claim has some nervously eyeing September 23rd. We'll tell you about him straight away when we come back. David Meade, we ought to get him on. I bet tomorrow's his big day. It's the last day on Earth. We should have him on. The self-described specialist in research and investigations has earned a fair amount of publicity online for predicting the catastrophic events would soon befall the Earth. And now maybe he thinks he's right. Maybe he's onto something. I mean, I'm not saying that. I don't think the guy's a liar. I think he just is wrong because I got 4 children. I sure hope he's wrong. But you do have North Korea threatening nuclear war tomorrow. That's coming up next. And you do have all these storms and earthquakes from Japan to Mexico that are record level. Among his claims, on Saturday, September 23rd, a constellation, a sign prophesied in the book of Revelation, would reveal itself in the skies of Jerusalem. So the beginning of the end of the world as we know it. So he's not specifically, again, saying it's ending tomorrow, the media spinning, but it signals the chain of events. Maybe we should get Meade on tomorrow, because he's saying that signals the beginning of the chain reaction, the countdown, the final countdown to Armageddon, the first big domino to fall. Stay with us. We are back live. Kim Jong-un threatens to tame, quote, mentally deranged Trump with fire. Many leftist organizations in the United States have praised this. They're actually defending North Korea as they point loaded missiles at Japan, at South Korea, and others, and threaten preemptive nuclear war. And then it's Donald Trump and America that is saber-rattling, according to our controlled corporate press. Whatever Trump might have expected, he will face results beyond his expectations. And this from Kim Jong-un, who never saw a buffet that he wouldn't scarf down immediately. Listen to him trying to sound like he's a Japanese samurai. Jeonju, before the fall of the sons of Aries and the seas gulfing Atlantis, there was a time of great adventure. And onto this plain strode Kim Jong-un, the magnificent, destined to rule the world and wear the crystal crown of Atalonia. It is I, your chronicler, alone, who will tell you of the days of great adventure. Can you pull up John Belushi as the samurai? When he'd run around with the samurai sword, like,
백전백승 조선노동당의 강대성의 상징과 인민의 영원한 위대한 김일성 동지와 위대한 김정일 동지께 숭고한 경의와 전당 정자 홍구야 온갖 위협과 온갖 징벌통묘 접해패가 민족 총진구를 과감히 전개해 나가고 있는 자오만 투쟁 속에서
Hold on, stop Kim Jong-un. And I'm translating here from Korean into Japanese for you. Very, very similar language.
I think you could break a 20.
Hold on. We're not going back to it yet. Let me show you actual footage of a negotiation with Kim Jong-un and our ambassador just 1 week ago. A little bit grainy footage from a pen camera, but here it is.
I think you could break a 20.
And now, another episode of...
Hit pause. I've already thought about this years ago, but I'm going to have a new bit way better than Jimmy Kimmel's and stuff about North Korean dictator. Go get me a kimono. Get me a samurai sword now. Because I'm going to start having daily press briefings from Kim Jong-un. I'm sorry. I've hit the point of gallows humor with the threat of nuclear war, you know, just days away possibly. Well, the threat's here. Having a nuclear war could happen any time. And so at this point, I'm just going to have some fun. Because can we back out on camera 5? I want to show folks something that a lot of people online have pointed out looks like a Pink Floyd album cover, but it's so crazier, it's even more powerful. It's Kim Jong-un a month ago watching one of the missile tests. He shot right over Japan. And again, this is a literal dictator that grew up in Switzerland and has never had a day's work in his life and literally is a dictator over a bunch of poor slaves who he's got brainwashed into a death cult. And he's now threatening to destroy the United States, which is asinine. The only problem is China more and more is coming in on their side, which shows how we've been completely sold out to China, giving them all our jobs. They oppress their own people. It's a horrible communist dictatorship, but our own elites wanted to control populations. So let me... let's go back to more of Kim Jong-un's, and everybody wants that. Let's go back to more of Kim Jong-un's speech threatening Donald Trump. Here it is.
온 나라 전체의 당원들 그리고 이 민군 장병들과 인민들의 중종과 여러 같은 경모의 마음을 담아 조선노동당의 창건자
You're saying I actually believe that trannies are cool. I myself have no wee-wee.
우리 당과 인민의 영원한
But I like to act like a man, but is my hair not beautiful?
위대한 김정일 동지께 가장 숭고한
People say I'm fat. This is not true. I am very manly. Oh. Yes, I can barely walk, but it doesn't matter. I can talk in a fake deep voice like this. 슝기 kumpuku tukaka. We are the most oppressive, pathetic scum on earth. We are the example of big government being a nightmare cancer. I know globalists inside America gave me the weapons and are backing me up to try to embarrass Trump. They intend to have the military not strike us, so we know we can thumb our noses. We believe we have back channels to discredit America. I'm a pathetic idiot. Idiot liberals like to come and pay to come here and do tourism to slave area, makes them feel better than other people. That's why we will win, because we have lots of scum like you who will help us, who want to oppress your own people. I am a giant gopher-like vampire. All right, I'm going to stop now. I got to get serious. Let's get back to the real world, which is about what I was just saying. Kim Jong-un threatens to tame mentally deranged Trump with fire. Whatever Trump might have expected, he will face results beyond his expectation. This is how Kim Jong-un would sound if he was speaking English, because he's so powerful. Indeed. A powerful Jedi who I see has constructed a new gopher mask. But beneath the mask of the obese gopher is the cunning guile of a master assassin, a ninja of untold skill, Kim Jong-il. which translates into swallower of souls. Because that's Satanism, is to put a deformed, evil, little ugly vampire up on top of something with the whole country bowing and worshiping and scraping on their bellies. That's Satanism. Overturning the family, overturning God, overturning prosperity, and grinding the human soul into the dirt with a big dirty heel with a fat little goblin on top of you, smiling down. Yes, liberal. So, let me, because when you talk about Kim Jong-un, you're talking about power. So let me speak in a powerful voice. Kim Jong-un, this is him speaking. Kim Jong-un threatens to tame mentally deranged Trump with fire. Whatever Trump might have expected, he will face results beyond his expectation. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has threatened U.S. President Donald Trump with fire in a response to the president's speech at the United Nations this week. In a rare televised speech Friday, Kim labeled the maiden UN address as rude nonsense and accused Trump of being mentally deranged for threatening to destroy North Korea. The mentally deranged behavior of the U.S. president, openly expression on the UN arena, was the unethical will to totally destroy a sovereign state beyond the boundaries of threats of regime change or overturn of social systems makes even those with normal thinking faulty. Think about discretion and compromise. Kim said, according to state-run media outlet Korean Central News Agency, KCNA. This guy really sounds powerful. Continuing, just look at him. Kim, who also is called the president a rogue and a gangster, stated that Trump's threats against the North Korean capital legitimize the North Koreans' pursuit of advanced nuclear weapons. His remarks, this is the great dear leader's speech, the man who gives the sun, the birds to sing, the grass to grow. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of his, sorry, back to him. His remarks, which describe the U.S. option through straightforward expression of his will, have convinced me, rather than frightening or stopping me, that the path I choose is correct, and that it is the one I have to follow to the last, Kim added. Now that Trump has denied the existence and insulted me, the great and powerful Oz, now that Trump has denied the existence of and insulted me and my country in front of the eyes of the world and made the most fiercest declarations of war in the history that we would destroy DPRK, we will consider with seriousness exercising of corresponding the highest level of hardline countermeasures in history. The North Korean leader ended his speech by threatening to tame Trump with fire. And then it goes on from there. I will surely, here's this real nice, I will surely and definitely tame the mentally deranged U.S. daughter with fire. Yeah, he's a real daughter. You can hardly walk, you twerp. Trump at 71 could physically defeat 50 Kim Jong-uns in battle axe combat, I bet. He'd probably, a few of them hacking his legs, and the president might bleed to death later, but I predict that Trump could defeat Kim Jong-un and 49 of his clones in a arena. In fact, he could easily do it if they were attacking one at a time. But I believe Trump at 71 could slay 50 baby goblins. Satan hemorrhoid protuberances. I will surely, I'm sorry, back to the great and powerful laws. I will surely and definitely tame the mentally deranged U.S. daughter with fire, Kim said. You and your detested Americans, I smelled you when you came in here. He says, Trump on Tuesday stated that the U.S. would totally destroy North Korea if the North placed ourselves or our allies in danger. The U.S. has great strength and patience, Trump said. If it's forced to defend ourselves, our allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. And that's what I've been saying militarily since the beginning of all this. The North, if you do strike them or counterstrike them with limited force, will destroy their neighbors and plunge the world economy into depression, and other wars will kick on. You've got to destroy them immediately if you do that. It's got to be done. With tactical nuclear weapons destroying the entire DMZ on their side, hitting all their other bunkers, military installations, command and control. You can't just let the ferrets run into their caves and then use shortwave radios, you know, the big fat demon possums, to then order their starving zombie slaves who mean well but are just brainwashed into total mind control. So I thought instead of just normally covering the North Korea news, I would do that, because as soon as I saw that video of him and you know, the way he talks, I'm the big man, oh, you will, but I will destroy you, in that tone of voice, when he doesn't even have a deep voice, just a fake, like a little 5-year-old acting like, I am the great and powerful Oz. Since he's doing that, I just thought I would make fun of him, because that's what communists and devil worshippers and filth bags hate more than anything. What happens if North Korea tests a hydrogen bomb over the Pacific? That's what he also says in here. They're getting ready to test one of those. Open air at an unnamed island or on a boat somewhere. I guess testing, sending one over to California and detonating it and vaporizing Los Angeles, which I know they blame on Trump. So that's all coming up. Meanwhile, Rob Reiner is running around with his paid actors saying that Trump is a Russian agent. And now Zuckerberg has announced, even Huffington Post gets it right and says they are the new Federal Elections Commission. They will block anything conservative, libertarian, nationalistic off their sites and call it political advertising if you criticize a Democrat. And so they are openly announcing all that. That's coming up. Because we are kicking their butts politically with the truth. They're the globalists. They're the people that have sold out America and the world. So they look at some foreign country that's also trying to get loose from the globalist, and they go, look, that's who secretly is running all this. No, everyone hates you. And you sociopaths like Rob Reiner, meathead, literal meathead, and the rest of it, are the real enemies of this country, and everybody who's thinking knows it. And it's time to go from disdaining you to absolutely never talking to you, watching you, supporting you, cutting the bloodstream off from you, and letting you vampires wander off into the bush somewhere. You're sick and you're a joke. Just like Hillary the sociopath cannot blame anybody but herself, but she keeps doing it. We've got a powerful report with Paul Watson coming up. Before I go any further, though, September's preparedness month. I don't believe the end of the world's around the corner, but if there is a big war, if there is a big depression, if they kill Trump, if there is civil unrest, if there is more big earthquakes, I mean, you look at stuff, no doubt we're entering a major time of change. And instead of doubling prices like Amazon and others have done for water filters and storable food, the most I can go down to the filters is 30% off regular price. That's huge. We're making like 20, 30, 40 bucks depending on the filter. We need to make more money than that, but we're doing this. The storable food is almost a loss leader. We're extending this because of the earthquakes and all the rest of the stuff that's hitting. I'm just cutting it, and they've allowed us to with promo code READY. It's 50% off. 50% off the already low price with promo code READY. InfoWarsStore.com, high-quality My Patriot, private labeled. That's how we get around the little contract rules. They let us do it with promo code READY, private labeled as InfoWars Select, but they slap the stickers on it at the factory, at the facilities in Utah. Super high quality, and ship it out to you. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And as I said, we've had a lot of stuff going on here. A lot of things happening. Been very, very busy, Beaver. A lot of good stuff, a lot of bad stuff, too. So the point is, please know that the Super Blue 50% off the toothpaste and mouthwash, fluoride-free, that's about to end. 50% off Emerson Essentials, that's got to end. I just haven't come up with new specials yet. I will extend into next week the Caveman specials, InfoWarsStore.com, but these specials are going to end probably today. The food will continue for a few more days, but please support us. Waging war on corruption, Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central. I'll be hosting a little bit into the fourth hour today, but then Matt Dubier, an amazing researcher and the owner of a powerful Chicago radio station that's been carrying us for 6-7 years, is going to be hosting. We're working with something very exciting with Matt that he's not ready to announce yet. But I'm looking forward to that. The animating contest of liberty. Kicking it up a notch in the face of all the censorship and garbage. But make no mistake, listeners and viewers, this is the battle for the Republic against authoritarian dirtbags. Why do you think they'd bring in 10 million Muslims? I thought it was 5 million from what I saw in the last 4 years to Europe. It's 10 million according to the UN refugee program. And the head of it says it's to get rid of white people. And you're like, well, I guess you're racist if you don't get rid of white people. No, that's racist to get rid of the white people or anybody else. It's called genocide. So they're pushing white genocide. Everybody from Ted Turner to that head vaccine lady out of the so-called Baptist school of Baylor. All of them saying white people are the problem, get rid of white people. And imbuing onto white people some special evil. And then it's weirdo white people pushing it. And why are they doing that? Because the globalists are all about numbers. They want to bring in outside forces, legitimize racism against whites, because whites are a minority, and then they want to be the whites that control the new majority. These are very, very diabolical people. And I ask my own family, who I know has given massive amounts of money to Baylor. Why? My grandmother lived like a pauper, and she had quite a bit of money from a little bit of West Texas tea, black gold. She just gave it all to Christian groups and Baylor. So Baylor can literally promote sexualizing children, transgenderism, and have professors saying white people need to all be killed. I vomit on Baylor. I vomit on that satanic organization. It's a den of devil worshipers, just like the Vatican. That's where they had the secret TPP agreement and the secret North American Union agreement. It's disgusting. And again, I ask everybody, both my grandmothers went to Baylor. They were at Baylor at the same time and knew each other. My grandmother, off and on, dated the HEB founder guy, Howard Butts. The point is that you go, oh, don't criticize my Baylor. And it's the same with all these colleges. You're the ones that let the scum take over your Christian universities and turn them into Satan factories. And again, I didn't mean to go off on Baylor. It's everything. It's everywhere. It's just unbelievable garbage. You know, they've still kept that professor up in NYU that says kill all the cops. Turns out he put out more tweets saying kill them. He's saying kill the cops, and the university's like, we like that. And you're like, this sounds crazy. Why? If they can have a satanic ceremony at high noon in a Catholic church in front of everybody and put it on national television, they're ruling you. If they can have 10 million refugees, 8+ million men, and have them everywhere raping en masse women to where Uber has to shut down because the Muslims are using it as rape wagons. The woman comes into the spider's nest, the door opens, she doesn't know it's a spider nest. She steps in, the guy locks the door, drives her into a garage, and 5 Muslims gang rape them. And hell, those are the lucky ones. A lot of women come up missing because the word is they like to cut up women and then sell them at their meat shops. Oh yeah, that's in the news. But it's okay, because it's liberal. Yeah, it's all liberal, and they're going to do a lot more of it, and you're going to love it, and you're going to take it, and you're going to beg for it. You know, it is Friday, and I really should take your phone calls. Tommy Robinson is going to be joining us from the UK in the wake of the ongoing Islamic ritual of raping the women and killing the children, bombing everybody, and just foaming at the mouth. Narcissist Satanism that's in the eyes of all these jihadis. Because they just seek to dominate everything around them. Because they know they're stinking piles of crap. That's why they want to tear down everything that's not mutated and ugly like their souls. Oh, people want a war. They got one, folks. I tried to stop the wars in the Middle East because I'd read the PNAG documents. They wanted to go take out the non-radical regimes, where women went to college, didn't have their genitals cut off, and where gays weren't thrown off buildings. And those places have all been overthrown now, except for one part of Syria. And our government put the most degenerate scum on earth in, who literally kidnap men, women, and children and sex traffic the women and children. And then the left makes jokes about it. And I've had it with all of you. And then Jimmy Kimmel talks about beating up Fox News host because they call him Hollywood elite. Yeah, Kimmel, you don't like being called Hollywood elite because you know that has the stink of political death on it. But, buddy, the pretty boys over at Fox News aren't your problem. You're your own problem. And you know you're a joke, and you know it's embarrassing, and you know only the stupidest people watch your show and like you. And I like your little threats on me, where you threaten to kill me, but it's all done as a joke, like I'm stupid. And the very things that happened the day after that little piece aired, that you probably don't even know about, because you're just a message boy that reads off a teleprompter. He has no idea what he's even involved in, does he? But the establishment says, here's your limo, and here's your money, and now you're somebody. You're somebody. While you run your mouth about how you're going to beat everybody's ass. You're scared, little boy, aren't you? You're going to get a lot more scared. And all of you Hollywood trash know that you've got the wreath of failure wrapped around your neck, the cone of shame. You've got whoredom written across your chest because you sold out your fellow countrymen. You sold out your birthright to be somebody else's man, to say the words that somebody put in a talking point in one of the big think tanks or one of the big Politico groups, where a bunch of old, twisted, nobody men hanging on to life by their fingernails, try to control the world for their own personal power trips. And they're so disconnected that they don't even know how culture works now. And they don't even get that when they spend billions of dollars at Facebook to force feed Facebook videos, that everyone is going to and is already turning on it with total and complete savage force. You can feel as true evil climbs out of the pit and as the persecution of innocence accelerates, God's wrath. And those connected to God can feel the resonance level of God's disgust and God's will to tear you slowly, limb from limb. You're going to beg 1,000 times, 1,000, like any child that you people ever tortured to death. So understand that. You're going to beg your God, Satan, to come and save you, and Satan won't be there. You understand that? Yes, I think you do now, don't you? We are back live, ladies and gentlemen, broadcasting worldwide on this Friday edition. Here are some of the headlines up on Infowars.com. Illuminati-themed fashion show held at London Catholic Church. I'm going to get more into that and break down the images for radio listeners. Also, Buchanan, Trump devastation of globalism at UN eclipsed by sensational Rocket Man lines. And I agree. The fact that he called out globalism and collectivism and talked about nationalism is seminal and is just simply amazing. Trump, American Gaullist. So we're going to get into what that means historically as well. Uber, ladies and gentlemen, has been banned in London. Uber and Out, ride-sharing service banned in London. London strips Uber license. And that is because of mass Islamic raping going on. That is just some of what we're going to be covering in that stack. London says it won't renew Uber's license. Swedish journalist who worked to demystify no-go zones gets shot in the no-go zone. That's right. We've actually paid leftist journalists who say we're liars, saying that you can go into these giant no-go zones in Brussels, Belgium, or Paris, France, or Stockholm, Sweden, and they go and they get physically attacked in minutes. Well, we've shown the video. BBC's been attacked. US TV's been attacked. And I mean at train stations and parks, the Muslims come over and beat you up. You don't see any women out there indoors chained up to the wall. That's all right, though the left likes that. So the Swedish journalist who worked to demystify no-go zones gets shot in no-go zone. Uber banned in London after sexual assaults by migrant drivers skyrocket. Paul Watson has the full report on that. New Hampshire Muslim refugee charged with sexual assaulting 4 girls, including 7-year-old. Look at this guy. They always say to the police, under Quran, under Sharia, whore wearing shorts. I rape whore. Whore go jail. And police go, well, that's not the law here. I rape whore. I see old whore walking filthy dog. I beat whore. All over the country, just you're walking your dog, unclean animal. I've actually had a Muslim come up to me and tell me that before. I'm not kidding. You know dogs are unclean. This was on the sidewalk like 15 years ago. I was like keeping my dogs on my parents' lab. And I was like, are you kidding? Because the guy knew who I was using it to mess with me. That was back when I guess I just bent over to Islam. I just didn't even know what to say. Oh, he's been charged with sexually assaulting 4 girls, including a 7-year-old. That's right. Muhammad only had a 9-year-old. So, see, you even violated the Quran there, buddy. Now he's in trouble. Look at that whacked out loon. How inbred do you think that guy is? And I'm not being mean. The Appalachians have a lot of problem with inbreeding. I've been to the Appalachians. There's some scary folks there. Some good people as well, but it's pretty scary. And they're white folks that are inbred. And they kind of look like this guy in the eyes. You know, royalty gets inbred, they go insane. And you know that, what was it, like 35% of all deformities in England are the Pakistanis. They're not even 1% of the population. And it's because a lot of the poor Pakistani folks have been inbreeding under Islam. And it's not a good idea to marry, you know, your first cousin or your mom, or, you know, your mom's your sister. Yeah, your mom's your sister. Heard what I just said, didn't you? Love you. That's right. There you go. And he's just, you see, 7-year-old at the park. It's rape time, baby. You know, it's like liberal. Because it's just loving. It's Islamophobic. Yes, I'm scared of black widows. I'm scared of rattlesnakes. When I go to a dock and I'm about to jump in and it's the springtime and the mating season of water moccasins, I don't just jump right in, because I had a buddy in high school, a guy I knew, really wasn't a buddy, got killed jumping in the springtime. It was a big ball of water moccasins. They kill more people than rattlesnakes, and he got bit 7-8 times and died. So I'm scared of folks like this. I mean, I sure wouldn't take my daughters and drop them off at a park with a bunch of Islamic men wandering around. Would you? You're an Islamophobe. You got to read this article on Infowars.com from Jihad Watch. Because it's the stuff she said in court. She's a lawyer that attacked people with a machete and golf clubs, stabbed a bunch of people, and then she wouldn't even stand up for the judge and just said, I do not listen to you. I am under Sharia. And even the left doesn't know what to do now because there's so many Islamic attacks. They go, look, we're kissing your butt so hard. Why do you keep killing us? And then because they got kind of a weird right-wing angle that's extreme, they're always like attacking gay nightclubs or liberal areas because, A, they know there's a bunch of disarmed people in there. They're cowards. So they attack folks they know are disarmed. And then, B, that's who they believe in their religion. The strangest thing about the radical Orthodox is Muslims is they respect me. On their main sites and stuff, they say they want to go after me, but they know I understand their plan to take over. And they say, infidel, we know you know our plan. We will get you. But they have respect because they understand I'm aware of their agenda. So there you go. You got to read this article. Female jihad, like moving a mountain of defiance in court. Our laws are not her laws. Her law is Sharia. And you've got to read this. Rahab Dagmash is the Canadian court after being arrested in June following a vicious attack on customers and staff at a Canadian tire outlet with a golf club and a large knife and a bow. In its coverage of the case, the Toronto Star reveals how, in detail, Dagmash's contempt for Canada, its infidel people, and its laws. The report begins, she's not insane, she's intractable. Westerners cannot begin to wrap their heads around how such a woman could not be insane. But she is just manifesting the jihad mindset. And then she goes on in the Toronto Star with quotes from court. These are from her. The Toronto Star's Rosie DiMano reveals the loyalty to Sharia of Dagmash. Quote, now usually you never see this, but she said this herself, so you get to hear what they say. Our laws are not her laws. Her law is Sharia. Despite the bizarre behavior of Dagmash, Westerners would do well to understand that Islamic supremacists and jihadists have one feature in common. Only one law is to adhere to, the Sharia, and no other law is to be respected since Sharia is regarded as divine law. Western leaders still refuse to acknowledge the truth that Islamic supremacists, the West, is the house of war and must be subjugated to the house of Islam, as the Toronto Star report continues. Last time I witnessed anyone refusing to stand in court, even for a judge's entrance, was a Toronto proceeding involving a member of Canada's notorious Qadar clan. In that instance, mother and sister of the defendant, not Omar, one of his brothers, remained insolently stapled to their seat, presumably to demonstrate their contempt for the Canadian court. The sense of superiority, which is accompanied by the entitlement and divine purpose, is at the core of Islamic supremacism. However, it may be manifested individually or by a group, making it all the more abhorrent that Canadian taxpayer dollars paid an Al-Qaeda fighter, Omar Qadar, $10.5 million in compensation for so-called abuses he suffered as a teenager in the U.S. military detention facility at Guantanamo Bay after he murdered a young medic, Christopher Spear, and blinded an American soldier, Lane Morris. Case of the woman accused of Canadian Tire attack like moving a mountain of defiance, DiMano wrote. She's not insane, she's intractable. A psychiatric assessment has found her perfectly mentally fit to stand trial. Our laws are not laws to her. Her law is Sharia law. She worships at the altar of the Islamic State. And what the woman is alleged to have done, attacked customers and staff at a Canadian Tire outlet last June with a golf club and large knife and a bow, she vows to attempt again. Speaking through an Arabic interpreter, Scarborough's court on Wednesday morning, through occasionally she proceeds, she also spoke English quite competently. Rahab Dagmash made the declaration, tell her I will always be a supporter of the Islamic State until the last day of my life. If you allow me to go out and leave, I will do exactly what I tried to do the last time and failed. Now remember, this is who they're bringing back into Europe and Canada with government retraining money and putting them in colleges and sometimes 25-year-olds in high schools saying, your development's arrested. We're going to put you in school with young people to abuse them. Getting the 32-year-old woman to engage with the court has been like moving a mountain of stubbornness and defiance. And it just goes on to all her arrogant statements and how we're going to get you and how we're going to overthrow you. I mean, you know, that's the thing. When people are running around declaring they're going to kill us and overthrow everything, and then the media is defending it and trying to cover it up most of the time, and then they're almost all military-age men. Again, 15 years ago, I thought it was a hoax. When I read stuff by Jihad Watch and others about this, I just thought there's no way that's real. This is the majority view, and it's why I harp on it like a broken record, because it is so incredibly important. And I have stacks of this every day. To an Islamic male who comes from a blue-collar or poor background anywhere in the world, a woman unattended is to be raped because that's how they oppress women, is beating them up or raping them. And then if the woman complains, she gets charged with adultery if she's married, or with having sex out of wedlock or blasphemy, and in many cases is executed. And the man or men who rape them, and I love the left tells us about Western rape culture that's almost non-existent. It's the West that is about treating women well. We get told as Western men that we're the pigs hurting women. And then there's this stinking red carpet of blood rolled out for Linda Saussure and by the leftist media when her family supports genital mutilation, terror attacks on Israel. Her family is in prison, a bunch of them. She says carry out jihad war in America. And she gets to sit up there and run her filthy, disgusting, slimy mouth, desecrating what's left of America and fomenting war. And when there is more terror attacks, they tell us we've got to kiss the butt, the big old baboon butt of the Islamicist even more, hoping they won't kill us in mass Stockholm syndrome. Well, your BS hadn't worked on me. Here's the analogy of why I get so upset. You know, if you give nuclear weapons to North Korea, they're going to start menacing people with it like communists always do, and it's going to build into a huge crisis. And they know the history of the Korean Peninsula and Japan and China. Those countries have had innumerable wars with each other. And the Vietnamese hate the Chinese more than anybody. They occupied them for 1,000 years. There's basically a religion of hating China in Vietnam. And it's a huge powder keg. And now nuclear weapons are proliferating everywhere. We know sexualizing children in the schools under sex education to teach them tolerance when they're 5 years old is pedophilia. And we know it's run by NAMBLA and others that recommended 20 years ago that that's how they would normalize it, was teaching the kids how to be tolerant. And really, you're just having an adult sexualize children who isn't the parents. I mean, it'd be perverted if parents were telling their 5-year-olds about sex and stuff. I mean, you don't even do that till they're teenagers. But we put up with it. And I liken it in a society to finding a house you like, but it's right by a highway. And, you know, statistically, if you have children, living by a highway is one of the most dangerous things. It's worse than a pool. It's one of the top things that kills children is getting run over by highways. But you know what? You have basically a 50-50 chance of getting run over if you live by a major highway. It's your dog or your cat. Just like giving nuclear weapons to a dictator, you good chance you're going to start a nuclear war. Kind of like moving in, you got 6, 7 kids and a dog and a cat, and you really like that house. And boy, it's big and nice, but it's out there at the edge of town on the busy highway by the interstate. Why would you live right there by the highway when you know it's going to get your dogs and cats killed and maybe even your kids? Well, you want the house. And you tell yourself it's going to be okay until, God forbid, one day you go out there and you hear the sirens and your 6-year-old wanders out there to get their ball and they're strewn 200 yards down the road. My family, about 1.5 years ago, wanted a cat. And I said, I like cats. But I said, there's a major road with tons of traffic on it going 60 miles an hour, 50 yards from the front door of this house. And I said, you got to keep that cat in the house. And I don't want to keep a cat in the house. Oh, we'll keep the cat in the house. Cat got out. He likes to go out. We start letting him go out. Starts to go over by the road, watch the cars. Son's coming home from jiu-jitsu, 9 o'clock last night. Cat's dead in our parking lot. I guess he crawled that far. And that's probably one reason I'm even extra angry today. But the reason I tell that story is I knew, but I just will not have a cat if you live by a highway. And by the way, if you live out in the country, people go, I don't know where Spotty went or where Garfield went. All over the United States, you know the #1 cause of cats' death in the countryside. It's coyotes. It's their main food source. And I see these signs up all over neighborhoods constantly. Where's my cat? Where's my chihuahua? Well, in Texas, it's coyotes. And, of course, you know what it is in Florida because they still won't let them hunt. It's alligators. But Disney didn't want to warn anybody that they'd had people's pets getting eaten, so it had to take a kid getting eaten before they started taking the alligators and flying them out. Shoot them in the head. They're a dangerous dinosaur walking around. They're like roaches now in South Texas because they have cut back the amount of hunting. And I'm just digressing. It's just the point is that I don't know when we're going to have a nuclear war. I don't know when a bioweapon's going to get out. I don't know when all this is going to get triggered. But more and more, we're entering the zone of where we can't stop this stuff much longer. And everything the globalists are doing shows that they actually want a big crisis to happen to get full control as they themselves evacuate to the southern hemisphere as fast as they can, because the two hemispheres are basically separate wind systems. And a huge nuclear war in the north, you could probably still live in the south. And you see the elites for 6, 7 years evacuating to the southern hemisphere. And I'm not the doom and gloomer here. I was the first to tell you about that. Now it's mainstream news. I'm just saying, man, can we just not have a nuclear war? But the issue is appease, appease, appease. And those who said appease end up hung by those they tried to please. What's the full poem? It's back from the Revolutionary War. I forget who wrote it. When freedom fails, patriots rot in stinking jails. And those that cried, appease, appease, are hung by those they tried to please. I'm going to give the number out and take your calls, play a bunch of clips. Coming up, stay with us on this Friday transmission. All right, Paul Watson has put out an extremely important report to understand the mindset, not just of Hillary, but of our enemies. And because we are, on average, good people and don't like hurting folks, don't like being dishonest, we have blind spots to that. You know, my grandfather used to say, son, you got to watch out. There's a lot of good people, but there's also a lot of bad in the world. And you just got to remember, just because you don't think about screwing people over, there are a lot of folks out there ready to do it. He used to always say, they'll kill their grandma for a stick of bubble gum. Well, the video's up on Infowars.com. It's up on PrisonPlanet.com, NewsWars.com. And it's really up to you to get this video out to everybody you know, because it just cuts right to the mindset of these people and why Kim Jong-un, Hillary, you name it, are just so horrible, because they're sociopaths. And Paul nails it. Nails it. Before we go any further, I am having this special going to next week when it's close to selling out, because we are getting more in the middle of October. Caveman is an incredible formula. It's one of our best sellers. The first few times we had it produced, we sold out. Now we've produced even more so that we don't sell out. That's why I've ordered less the next time. I did get a bit of a glut this time because people ordered it so much. I doubled the size of the order, and people didn't quite go that far. So I've cut it 50% because I want to sell out of what we've got before more comes in. It's amazing. The best meal replacement. It's beyond next level whey. We also sell high-quality private labeled whey for $5, $10 less, and you'll see it in stores. But Caveman is our own formulation by one of the top firms that puts out these systems and puts out whey. And it's concentrated chicken broth. It's completely concentrated. It's quantifying it. I mean, it's like 20 bowls of chicken soup without the calories. I've been told it's more than that. The amount of collagen, the amount of nutrients, the amount of the stem cells, just everything that's in there is mind-blowing. And then it's got, 7 other or 8 other primal foods in it. Chaga mushroom, organic, concentrated turmeric. I mean, look at what turmeric does alone. It's got the bee pollen, goji berries, and so much more. All together in this true paleo, ultimate paleo formulation, alfalfa herb powder, and so much more. 50% off. It's a great introductory way for you to try it out. Very, very affordable. Comparable brands that aren't even as strong sell it for $60, $70. We normally discount it to $49. The top retail's $59, but it's $29 right now. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that it's got a lot of product in it. It costs a lot for us to produce because there's not fillers. This is really amazing. And I add it to milk and some ice. With a strawberry, throw some strawberries or berries in, and it tastes good. With water, it just tastes okay. But whatever, just hold your nose, gulp it down, see why it's so amazing. It's got 4.7-star reviews, thousands of them at InfoWarsLife.com. And this special will end, and it'll be a long time till it's this price because I ordered a little bit less of it. I ordered more than we first ordered, but not, I think we tripled the order because it kept selling out. And we were sold out of it the first time for 6 months, the next time for 3 months. I said, put in a massive order. And we got like 18 wheelers of it. So support the broadcast. Get a great deal on it. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. And finally, we also, of course, have 50% off. And that's the regular low price of My Patriot Supply. We've never done that, but September's preparedness month, and we've had all these earthquakes and all these tornadoes and all these hurricanes. I just said, you know what? Let's cut this down to where it's almost a loss leader, which we've done. And believe me, this took a lot to get done. There was even had to be management changes because My Patriot's awesome. They're wonderful people. They already have the best storable food out there for the price. But still, we weren't able to do this even at 30% off, you notice, for about 6 months because there were some of the other distributors got upset about it. Just somebody else was going to sell something at almost a loss. Well, that's just what we do, okay? So I don't know how long this can go, but this is a real to-the-bone special, and I want to salute Matt Redhawk over there at My Patriot Supply, the founder of the company. And they had other great management, too. It's just that, we had some arguments with the previous folks, so Redhawk's back running the whole thing. I'm just letting you know, I mean, I had to really bang heads to go 30%. And now at 50, they just said, you know what? We'll let you do that a week, even though we don't make any money. And I said, you know what? Because it's the Christian thing to do, and they're Christians. And I just said, let's just keep doing it. So InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And Redhawk called Tim Frugier on Wednesday and said, I'm listening to Alex, just go ahead and extend it. But he said, listen, we like to ship within 1 or 2 days. We don't ever like to run out of the food. We don't make people wait like other folks do, because that's why they're the top 2 companies. Now, you can argue they are the biggest. They've only been around 8 years because of the quality, the customer service, how fast they get it to you. The packaging's the best, and it's proprietary. Because of all of it, they don't like to run low. It's only happened a few times. So at the amount they're selling at this cost, it could end. I could get a call from Matt Redhawk today. He said maybe a week, and that was on Wednesday. So, but he said, don't hold me to that. So I'm telling you exactly what was relayed to Tim and then to me. So just understand, this is a special you don't ever see. But those type of folks that are like, we're not going to do what Amazon does and double prices during a crisis. We're going to do the opposite. But we expect you to act like that as well. That's what built America. Okay, I want to take your phone calls after this Paul Watson report. I cannot express to people with all the global stuff going on, you need to be self-sufficient. You need to have water filtration, firearms. You need to have basic medical equipment. You need to have basic know-how. You need to have storable food. But you need to really, number one, have your relationship with Jesus Christ straight. And that doesn't mean I'm on some high horse. Doesn't mean I don't stub my toe and say things I shouldn't. But I love God, and I love justice, and I hate the devil. So, but I'm a wicked person, I'll tell you right now. All our hearts are wicked, but I'm pointed at God, and I'm not trying to preach here, folks, but we're up against devil worshipers. And even if you don't believe in God, they do. Their mascot's the devil, folks. That isn't the devil they sell like a hot cheerleader with devil horns on the back of somebody's pickup truck, or, a heavy metal band with, good-looking girls up there, and you're like, yeah, the devil. When you're 14, it's fun, it's rebellion. That's not the devil. The devil's little kids with their ribs sticking out, starving to death, and bondage and enslavement and stinking piles of dead people and kidnapped children and war and Kim Jong-un and enslaved populations and pure evil. America was Christian, and look at all our blessings, and we were never that good, but we did have some real Christians, and look at all the blessings we got. You start worshiping evil, you're going to be a poor slob. These idiots that sell their soul to be powerful. They don't sell. They already had natural talent. They got convinced to serve evil and that they would be successful, so they join evil so they'd control them, instead of you going out and being a good person and building your own system that they don't control. The devil doesn't give you power. He tricks you into giving over your power to him. Excuse me, I don't mean to preach. It's just sometimes I got to. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. First-time callers on this Friday. And I want to hear from you on the North Korea, on Trump, on just Hollywood, Chelsea Handler. Maybe we trade Trump for Kim Jong-un. I told you, the left loves evil. 800-259-9231. We're going to play this powerful Paul Watson report. They're even talking about canceling the next Winter Olympics in Seoul, South Korea, because of all this. It's all coming up. Infowars.com/show. Be part of the rebellion. Spread the links. Spread the articles. Defeat their artificial intelligence. Defeat the censors. Do your own videos. Do your own articles. Get aggressive. Speak out. Nothing can stop you when you take action. Now, here is the truth about Hillary Clinton by Paul Joseph Watson, reporting from London.
You do hold, and you breathe through one, and you hold it, and then you exhale through the other, and you keep going. And you keep going. And you keep going. It is very relaxing. Have you tried that? Alternate nostril breathing. Have you tried that? It is very relaxing.
If you thought Hillary was acting weird before the election, she's just turned it up to 11.
It is very relaxing.
According to Dr. Robert Hare, professor of psychology at the University of British Columbia, one of the defining traits of a psychopath is a failure to accept responsibility for one's actions. According to Dr. Seth Meyers, a clinical psychologist with the LA County Department of Mental Health, one of the defining traits of a sociopath is that they tend to blame others for their own failures. Yeah, who does that remind you of?
Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask? Well,
how many people and things, apart from herself, has Hillary blamed for losing? Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Russia.
Russian, Putin, the Russians, Russia, the Kremlin, the Russians, Putin, Russia.
Bernie Sanders voters, James Comey, the media, WikiLeaks, sexism, fake news, husbands, white people.
Millions of white people. Yeah, millions of white people.
The Daily Mail compiled 41 different things or people she blamed in her book. Classic sociopath behavior. As forensic psychologist Armando Simon notes, she has blamed everything and everyone, except herself, or her serial rapist husband. This is very typical of a sociopath. She is a true, certifiable sociopath.
I had not drafted a concession speech.
Yeah, that's why you didn't concede on the night of the election, isn't it, Hillary? It isn't actually that you got completely faced drunk to soothe your butt hurt, started throwing things at people, and refused to do it. Oh, but you kept going after the election and you didn't get depressed. That's why you started doing bizarre things with your nostrils and disappeared into the woods for days on end.
I feel like I'm a bit of a, Paula Revere.
Yeah, Paul Revere warned that foreign invaders were on their way to attack. He didn't invite them to fundraising galas like you did, Hillary. He didn't sell them a huge chunk of America's uranium supply like you did. He didn't take vast amounts of money from them to give speeches like your husband did. She thinks the media was against her during the election and wanted to make voodoo dolls of reporters and stick pins in them.
I thought something like this might happen. That's why I prepared for it.
What are you talking about?
Your own personal mojo, Doc.
The media was unfair to Hillary. What? What? You think we didn't read the Podesta emails? You had journalists getting approval for their stories from your campaign before they were published. You had CNN contributors handing you the debate questions in advance. They were putting out polls saying you had a 98% chance of winning. 91% of the media coverage in the final weeks of the election was negative towards Trump. What in God's name are you talking about?
Like an out-of-body experience.
She claimed George Orwell's 1984 was a lesson in how people needed to trust authority. Yeah, that actually happened. What level of self-delusion do you have to be living under to think that a book that is purely about an authoritarian behemoth crushing the individual is actually about the need to trust authority?
If they were, responding on a YouTube comment chain or on Twitter to something, they were just attacked, and the attacks were so sexist.
Oh, cry me a river. The are you on about? YouTube comments? Now you're whining about YouTube comments. Get over it. She even refused to take the blame for words that came out of her own mouth.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
But you offended some people who didn't personally feel deplorable at all.
I don't buy that. Got to understand what Putin's strategy is. He really doesn't like democracy. He thinks it's an inconvenient, messy process.
Yeah, you just love democracy, Hillary, don't you? That'll be why you had your girlfriend, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and the DNC deliberately sabotage Bernie Sanders' campaign and rig the primaries, because you care so much about democracy. What's wrong with Hillary? She's a sociopath. And no, I'm not just saying that as an insult. She's literally a sociopath. She's a sociopathic, pathological liar. She lies when she doesn't even have to. This is the woman who claims she was named after Sir Edmund Hillary, the first person to climb Mount Everest. Yeah, one problem with that, Sir Edmund Hillary climbed Mount Everest 6 years after Hillary was born in 1947, at which point No one even knew who he was. Hillary Clinton is completely nuts. She's infamous for having raging tantrums over nothing. People literally hide in rooms to avoid her. Don't forget, this is the woman who basically said she was staying in the 2008 presidential race in case Obama got assassinated. This is a woman who laughed about getting a child rapist off the hook.
Took a lie detector test. I had this polygraph, which he passed. Forever destroyed my faith in polygons.
And the only fault she acknowledges in her book is not communicating her message better. Like, if she'd just have communicated better, people would have liked her. Nobody likes you. You're fundamentally unlikable. You're detestable. You barely even managed to come across as human. Even the Huffington Post says what happened reads like a, quote, self-care book written by a serial killer. This is not a well woman. But then again, what do you expect from someone who, according to Oxford University, has a bigger psychopathic personality than Nero? And the greed. Oh, the sickening, endless greed. A $14 million advance on your previous book, a $20 million advance on this one. And you still charge people over $2,000 for a front row seat and a picture. Listen, I know you've got to pay off that mansion you bought next to the White House, having bought it before the election, assuming you'd be coronated because you're a narcissistic, arrogant piece of But how much money does one person need?
A lot of people have said, oh, I wish Hillary Clinton would just go away.
Yeah.
Just go away.
Well, you know, if they'd take up a collection and send me somewhere really nice.
Someone set up a GoFundMe, quick! The New York Times reported the long road to a Clinton exit. 9 years ago, and she's still here. Even her own fundraisers are telling her to shut the up and go away because she's harming the Democratic Party's chances in 2018. Politico reports that all this anti-Trump hysteria, which originated with Hillary crafting the Russian collusion narrative, isn't working. 2018 key swing state voters don't care. If you're a Trump supporter, you shouldn't want Hillary to shut up. You should want her to stick around. Her sociopathic insanity keeps reminding people why Trump won in the first place, increasing his chances of winning again in 2020. Hillary Clinton is like herpes. Herpes Hillary. She's painful, embarrassing, and she won't go away. And for Trump supporters, that's a good thing. But for the good of the country, should we really allow a deranged sociopath whose decisions have led to death and destruction across the world to remain at large?
We came, we saw, he died.
A woman who's never accomplished anything besides spreading misery throughout the globe. Someone who's in control of a powerful criminal enterprise known as the Clinton Foundation. Or should we step up pressure on Trump to keep the promise he made before the election?
Because you'd be in jail.
Tommy Robinson is joining us coming up a little bit in the next hour, but we'll continue with your phone calls. Taking your calls right now. Zach in Florida, Ryan in Colorado, Dan in Indiana, Nick in New York, Jeremy in New Mexico. There ain't no easy way out. There's no easy way out. Stand my ground. And I won't. And in that is the truth, ladies and gentlemen. In that commitment is when all the strength comes. Not hesitating. Zach in Florida, you're on the air. Welcome.
Yes, how you doing, Alex? It's great to be on. And I just wanted to talk about the deep state's COG plan and how it ties in with North Korea, because they do go hand in hand.
But we know the Democrats are trying to hijack COG. I'm not even saying COG's bad. The point is they are saying in major publications they want to hijack it, use a race war or a war to unseat Trump.
100%. And quite frankly, you know, I have to predicate this comment because I really do respect and admire Steve Pieczenik, but there was a call a couple weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, when he was, you know, in during the hurricane, and he made some bizarre comments, in my opinion, about the lack of importance of the POTUS and this type of thing, where I think that was kind of out of touch and kind of out
you know
there.
what? You know what? I'll say this.
Comment.
I mean, I'll have Pieczenik back on. Pieczenik guaranteed got some phone calls from the last time he was on, and I think he's hedging his bets. I think, you know, Pieczenik.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was very bizarre. I was trying to follow along and hoping he was, there was going to come a laugh after it, but some of it was bizarre. But anyways, I hope he's doing okay, and I hope he's safe, or maybe he was stressed from the hurricane. But let me get into my point.
I don't want to bash him. I'll have him back on. But that's a load of bull. I've talked to a lot of people that are currently in intelligence agencies. They say it's a serious threat against the president. This country's in a civil war, a soft, cold civil war right now, and the threat against the president and the attempt to overthrow the country is very real.
So we have two unprecedented events. You have the address at the UN done by President Trump, which got very little coverage by the mainstream media, which was incredible. And then what you have is Kim Jong-un responding, which is a complete rarity because he realizes that he is a pawn. He was educated in Switzerland, the strategic patience pawn. He's put in a situation where he even realizes, that the paintings on the wall there, and he's done. What's going to happen here with this North Korea issue is pretty important because when they're coming out with statements and press conferences like this is unprecedented. So what we can't do is just look at them as a conventional threat of missiles and maybe they test another ICBM or something like this. We have to realize of what the Arabs and what the radical Islamists have done with suicide attacks. There may be a triggered event in the United States that could trigger this whole thing off. And is it done?
I was about to say, the North Korea is basically like radical Islamic countries or Iran. They admittedly have large brigades of suicide troops.
And the U.S. is already is already buying the crap when it comes to these false flags because if you want to talk about sophistication, North Korea is not sophisticated, but make no mistake, they are way more sophisticated than some dudes in some caves in Afghanistan. So the idea that they can perpetrate something on our home soil with suicide missions or something like this, all while,
So if you're saying it's a false flag, who would do the false flag?
Well, this is where it gets real tricky because what is the deep state? Because what, as Steve Pachinik weirdly talked about, it doesn't matter about the POTUS, it's about continuity of government. This is a major grab. And then, this.
You're saying there could be a nuke going off and killing Trump saying North Korea did it?
Well, there could be a very, very isolated, dirty bomb attack in the U.S., and it can be attributed to North Korea, and the dominoes that this will put into place will be incredible.
Clearly, and they would take out Trump and North Korea at the same time. That's a good point. Did you think that up, or did you hear that from somebody? We'll come back with Zach in 70 seconds. We're going to go to Jeremy, Ryan, Dan, Nick, and others. Stay with us. All right, Zach. Looking at the situation, killing the elected president is overthrowing the election of the people. And Hillary has said she wants to overturn the election. And even Lord Rothschild, the head of one of the biggest power structures out there, has said it's basically time to take out North Korea. So this is definitely a different strategy now. There's different factions. What factions do you think are out there? Where do you think this is going? Kim Jong-un now threatening to detonate a hydrogen bomb above ground.
Yes. During that UN address, there's some very eerie images, and you've showed them on your show of Tillerson and Haley sitting and watching as they speak because, Trump wrote that speech and Trump delivered that speech, and that was a message to the rest of the world. That's why you see Kim Jong-un unprecedentedly responding. So what I'm thinking is going to happen here is there will be a response. The North Korean dictatorship is out of control, or who knows who they're really being backed or ran by. I believe, and this is more than an assumption, that there will be an attempt. Doesn't mean it will be successful. There will be an attempt on an attack on the U.S. mainland because notice the strategic and kind of eerie talks that Kim Jong-un said, fire like we've never seen. Of course, with our anti-missile defenses, we could do anything. But obviously, in the past, 15 years of war, we're vulnerable to suicide attacks. So for some reason, we think Korea, we don't think the status quo, what goes in the Middle East, which is IEDs, dirty bombs, and things of this sort. So, this is going down. And it's very important because continuity of government is important. What we have is a president who is literally organizing a revolution. I hope he could get the people around him because I hope Mattis is sticking with him because the things that Pachinik was saying and some other guys who I know were saying about sticking up for kind of McMaster and these guys and these kind of comments of you didn't serve so you just shouldn't talk is very dangerous. It's very dangerous because it doesn't matter who served. The president is at the top of that chain of command. Mattis outranks McMaster, and that's what we have to go with.
Sure, the idea is Trump wasn't in the military, so he doesn't count. Oh, he went on the campaign trail. He lost hundreds of millions of dollars. He stuck his family out there. Trump has served this country hardcore, and it's very elitist to then say he isn't as big a man as somebody that was in the military when all he's done is try to take care of the military. It's embarrassing.
And my answer to that is George Washington. Don't give me the crap about, you served for 30 years, so you have this, this moral high ground. Before there was any military, there was a man who started it and the man who started the revolution. So, and Pachinik is kind of removed. And again, I'm not attacking him.
That's right. The elitist British military would never even take Washington. That's one reason he wanted to prove them wrong. He was just a colonial scout and was in way more combat than the Redcoats. They were afraid to go where he even went. And then later he kicked their ass 5-1. So there you go.
So we do know technologically that North Korea, with their backing of certain elements, is more sophisticated than surely Afghanistan and probably Libya. And this whole strategic patience problem has fallen apart. And if you want to see how strategic patience works, if you're Kim Jong-un...
That's a good point. The guy that founded the U.S. Army and the U.S. military was never in an official military.
Exactly. So that statement, and maybe he was stressed by the storm. I'm down in Florida, too. It was pretty stressful. But some of the things he was saying were pretty... I don't know. Maybe it's not just him. Maybe he was hinting at some things or he was in a vulnerable spot. But this is the kind of thing. And if you look at the UN, the speech and the address that Donald Trump delivered, it's just so incredible and so important because I think he could have gone one or two ways. He says, you know what, I'm going to deliver this. I'm going to write it and I'm going to do it. Of course, he has his guys in there. But look, this is it.
He showed he's not selling out. He showed he's doubling down.
He showed it's not selling out, but, I don't want to tie in the hurricanes and the earthquakes and everything with it, but there's a lot of kinetic movement going on the planet right now. People are getting antsy, and there's obviously a change in philosophy within the United States that's been running probably since at least probably after Kennedy. Reagan tried to stop some things, but obviously look what happened to him. And then he doled out and he just seemed dumbed down and kind of poisoned toward the end of his term. And you alluded to, and you were really heartfelt, and I could tell how much passion you were leaking some things initially during that talk on that transmission with Steve Pachinik about Trump being poisoned. And I don't know if he's being poisoned, but intellectually, he's most definitely is being poisoned, influenced. That's
they're pulling all his friends away. They're isolating him, and they know Trump operates off his family and his friends and people he really trusts. We'll be right back. Stay with us. It's Friday. We're taking your phone calls. Got a bunch of video clips coming up that are really important. Tucker Carlson smacks down Rob Reiner, or Meathead, as Hollywood's war with Russia expands, and as he produced a video with the most prolific actor in history. That's right. It's official. He's in more TV shows, more movies than anybody else. Morgan Freeman, who said a lot of good stuff over the years, but we now know he was basically paid by different special interest groups to say it for PR. The guy is just quite a capitalist, but I guess a sociopathic one. And I'd heard that about Morgan Freeman from folks. That's why he undercuts other actors. He's a smart guy. That's why he gets more roles than anybody. He does takes, they say, better than even people like Clint Eastwood, who they say is, like, next to Morgan Freeman, the guy that doesn't mess up his lines. Well, there you go. Now he's really discredited himself with Rob Reiner, the big producer, saying that Trump got elected because of the Russians and that we're, quote, at war with Russia. So that clip's coming up. We covered it a few days ago, but now Rob Reiner has responded. And Chelsea Handler, maybe we trade Trump for Kim Jong-un. It's a Breitbart story. It's up on Infowars.com. Comedian and talk show host Chelsea Handler praised North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's warning letter to President Trump. So the headline is, Hollywood sides with Kim Jong-un against America. I know we posted this. Can we post it with a proper headline? I'll just change it for Breitbart. Do him a favor. Because traitorous Hollywood trash or evil Hollywood black hole. She's not a star. I don't know what you call it. Hollywood sides with North Korean bloodthirsty dictator over Trump. I mean, it's just, there's no end. And it's not just her. There's so many of the folks who don't get the peril we're in, or the Clintons gave him the weapons, or the guy is a nightmare demon. But they're so out of touch. They hate this country so much that's given them everything that she sides with some cartoon-level nut who's a bloodthirsty jerk. They say if his girlfriends are rude to him or don't act just perfect, he has them killed. And he admits to it. And his family members and everybody else. I mean, he's a little bloodthirsty, do-nothing punk who never did anything in his life. McDonald's managers have done 1,000 times what this guy's done. Single mothers 1 billion times. Some guy that's worked at a golf course 20 years, 1,000 times the man. A literal nobody that no one would be friends with, that no one would like, running a dictatorship, and we have to see this lady and all this other Hollywood scum every day kissing his demonic butt. Yes, I hate Hollywood. I hate Stephen Colbert. I hate them all because they hate me, because they're a bunch of jerks and a bunch of trash in that giant submerged iceberg that the tip of it just sticking up, just 5% of the mass is a mountain of crimes, devil worship, pedophilia, murder. They're just a bunch of inbred, crazy, globalist trash worldwide. The Islamicists, the North Korean government, the Hollywood, all just a bunch of people that have been getting away with murder forever. And they look at good, straight, strong, hard-working people of every color and every creed, and they want to deface that. They want you to roll around in the manure with them like they do at Skull and Bones, where a bunch of men get together in a big vat of feces and urine and have sex with each other, and then they get in coffins and ask Lucifer to come into them. That's admitting. What the hell is your problem? Why don't you want to go grill hamburgers with a beautiful vista and go ride around on a boat and go wakeboarding or hike a mountain or look at the stars or praise God or, you know, take care of your children, just be good? Because you're evil and good people haven't destroyed you. And so it's our fault. It's my fault. It's my fault this is all happening. It's your fault. And it's not going to keep happening. God help us. You know, Hollywood is a factory of kidnapping children and killing them. Just millions of missing kids in just the West every year, 800,000. Most of them aren't runaways. They're people grabbed by these spiders and drug off in it. You know why everybody gets so scared of stuff like It the Clown, Pennywise, and it's the #1 movie, horror movie ever. Was it $400 million or something I saw the other day? You see, that's why this show sounds so whacked out, because truth is so much stranger than fiction. Don't believe me, just search the history of clowns. And that in ancient Greece, Babylon, and Egypt, child sacrifice cults would put on red outfits for blood and red manes for blood and white faces, because they knew they had to tell the villagers, you bring your kids. That's the ultimate act of submission, is to bring your 2, 3, 4-year-old right when you love them the most. Right when they're the funniest, the sweetest, everything, and they're going to torture them in front of all you. They're either going to grill them on a big hot metal plate in front of the idol with a fire under it, or they slice them up and the priests drink the blood, and then a lot of times make you drink it. The Aztecs did it, everybody else did. And in almost all cultures, the people doing it, instead of wearing an executioner mask, because sometimes somebody might still get mad in the village who still has their instincts and kill you. So you don't wear a mask, a hood like the executioner. You wear a clown mask with a big red mouth. You're scary. And big red hair for blood. And you wear... In fact, let's show the satanic ceremony that's on Drudge right now. Illuminati satanic-themed fashion show held at London. Look what they're all wearing, because that's actual satanic regalia that's 5,000 years old. Notice it's clown outfits. 5,000 years old. 5,000 years old. You want to know why you don't like Pennywise? Because boys and girls, just like I told you last week, Satanists dress up like clowns. And what are you seeing on your screen? You're seeing real satanic regalia. But they used a bunch of sucked dry, brain damaged, brainwashed youth to strut around doing it in a Catholic church. We're going to go to your calls coming up at the bottom of the hour. And Tommy Robinson is a best-selling author, publisher, patriot. He's got 2 books out. You should get them off his website. One of them is sold out right now. That's Muhammad's Quran. And he also works with Rebel Media. We appreciate him joining us. And the reason I wanted to get him on was the bombing last week, and we've got him on now, which we now was an Islamicist operation. Muhammad'sQuran.com. That's at Tommy Robinson on Twitter. And we have Pakistan Muslims. This is just today. Pakistan Muslims beat and rape Christian boy. Police side with the perpetrators, saying, well, it's a Christian. We're allowed to rape you. That's why the globalists like Islam. It's a pedophile operation by the people that actually adhere to it. Islam is also our history. EU Finance Exhibition, basically in a church, guts it and puts on Islam. But don't worry, the British school to be rated how trans-friendly it is. Oh, wonderful. Go there immediately. And then I've got here Uber's banned in London because of mass Islamic rape. Using them basically as a spider hole. You think you're calling an Uber, you're really calling a refugee driving one. And then we got a guy that raped 5 little girls, including 7, another refugee in New Hampshire. And the media is, of course, very, very happy to cover that up. So Tommy Robinson joins us right now from what's left of the United Kingdom, from London, Stan, where Sadiq Khan told us twice in the last few years, get used to Islamic terror. Those are actual quotes. We probably cue that up again. This is just quite normal. Acid attacks, BBC tells you how to put makeup on after the daily acid attacks. So, Tommy, the only question is, why are you standing in the way of cultural enrichment? And we now know these new refugees that carried out the bombing last week had been brought in by the government in the last 2 years and were housed. They were children at, 21 years of age. So this is all part of the sickening evil, all part of the ceremony, I guess, of destroying Western culture.
What I couldn't understand was, the 21 years old, he's still housed with foster parents. And these foster parents were given an award off of our Queen for housing, and all of these now, when you listen to the things coming out from them, the majority of the children they're now taking in are refugees from Syria, from Iraq, from Eritrea, from these places. But they're not children. As we were at the time, at the time when all these children, these so-called children, there was a big influx of them. We had celebrities, Gary Lineker, Lily Allen, all of them, saying that everyone was racist or bigots, even Piers Morgan, for refusing to them. And at that time, I went back and dug out a video we made at that time, which was just to point out, these are not children. These are not children, and they are going to come back and bite us. And that's exactly what's happened. And still now, that's the problem. It's not like we learn anything from these attacks. It's a shame, because every time there's an attack, you think we'd be learning, but we don't. No,
instead, your own prime minister and everybody else acted like Trump did it. Because Trump said it was a terror attack. He said it was Islamic. They said that was wrong. Of course it was. And then they said he was bad. Our news over here was just Trump is evil.
I know. That's all our news is. In fact, I just met someone earlier as part of a documentary, and he said exactly the same. As we're sitting there, it's all about Trump. And he said Trump called every Mexican a rapist. No, he didn't. And all the things which he said, I said, this is the problem we have with the media or people like you. And I was actually away. I was in Spain as this was happening, as this terrorist attack was happening. And I saw the backlash against Trump. And it's simply, again, for telling the truth. And our mayor, I don't know, man. The only one good bit of positive thing that's come from the last 3 or 4 days is Uber being banned in London, which is, for me, is great.
Let's talk about that, because how much can people take? 10 million people the last 5 years, 80% military-age men, according to even the UN, EU, and Interpol. They're just, there's so many Islamic attacks now, hammer attacks, acid attacks, knife attacks, including here and in Canada. I can't even keep track of them all. And just the raping and you're walking your dog, they attack you because the dog's unclean. These are some really arrogant people.
With regards to Uber, so London's black cab trade is the last predominantly white working class trade in London. It's a 400-year-old historic industry. It's viewed upon as the fifth emergency service. If you're in trouble, you have the London black cabs. They will help you. If you're a female on your own, they will save you. They will act as the eyes for the capital city. They are a skilled trade. They've worked for 4 years, and they have their business opportunity.
They have the knowledge, as it's called, very famous, the model of cabs worldwide, so professional, so nice. Now you go to London, it is falling apart. Please continue.
Yeah, that's it. So you have the knowledge, and we have, I believe, 20,000 black cabs. Now, overnight, we had 100,000 Uber drivers. Now, anyone can see it. Uber drivers are Somalian, Eritrean, Syrian. They cannot even speak English. You see them so many times going up the wrong way down one-way streets in London. Now, that's before we get on to the rapes, the crime, the statistics, the violence. We've had the attack that happened outside our Queen's house, outside Buckingham Palace, where a terrorist went and he tried to pull out and kill police officers. That was an Uber driver. We've seen multiple offences, and terrorist offences are linked to Uber drivers. And that's why what this was an attempt of, which it may be different. You see, Uber may be different in different parts of the world, in different cities. But in London, Uber is simply an Islamic ferry, and it is driven by immigrants who have come here, who are disrespectful to our women, disrespectful to our laws, and disrespectful to our country. Obviously not all of them, but on par, that's what we see, which is why I've been very vocal against Uber.
Well, I was about to say, what the Islamists do, it's like you go to any airport, Somalis are the only ones that run the parking areas, that run the cab areas, and that also run the rental areas. I mean, I've been all over the big areas, Minnesota, D.C., Seattle. It's incredible. And I've asked them, and I looked it up, they have lobbies and guilds that go to the airports and lobby to have the lowest level bid. Then they all get on welfare, undercut everything. I know it's the same in your country. And then they take control. Then once they've got control of Uber, say in London, then they only start hiring other Islamicists. That's how this works.
It's exactly.
Tommy Robinson's our guest. His Skype just broke out for a moment. He was saying that's exactly how it works. And again, it's all incredibly discriminatory. And it's happening using the West openness. You were saying that's exactly what's happening, Tommy. You're back.
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what's happening. And if you go to Heathrow Airport, and actually what they were doing, I had a conversation. This is where it really gets to me. I got in a taxi, I had a conversation with a cab driver who told me his daily outgoings, his daily bills, how much he has to earn. Then he told me what happened when Uber got in. His whole marriage has broken down. He went from working 12 hours to having to work 18 hours. He said he sleeps in his car. He's having to do this for exactly the same. And this is the difference. When he goes home, he has a mortgage, he pays his tax, and he has a family. And they live in one home, one family in one home. The Uber drivers, the comparison, they're on benefits. They share a license amongst many of them. When they get home in one house, there'll be 3 or 4 families. They've all come in as refugees. They've all come in as immigrants. It's not sustainable for an Englishman.
What it does is drive down the wages and the culture, the giant sucking sound that Ross Perot talked about.
This is a great story, and you followed individual drivers, and they're sleeping in their cars.
It destroys our ability. And what we was nearly close to doing, you know, anyone from abroad in your countries, you look at London, you see what you see. The iconic things would have been the red phone box. They're gone. The black cabs would have been gone. The black cabs are the last English trade in that capital city. For tourists to come over to our country and get into a taxi and speak to an Englishman, that is the final opportunity they have. Because once that black cab's gone, once they've gone and that trade is disappeared, then all you have is Somalians, Eritreans. There's nothing left of London after that. There's nothing left of London. And that's where I said it's such an important issue. It's such an important issue.
Well, let me tell you my story. And I've been to England many, many times. The last time I was there, it happened twice. I would try to get a cab to the hotel that was very close to the airport. And because I was going all over England, so I wasn't going to stay in London itself. And I was at Heathrow. And they said, sorry, it's 50 pounds. And I went, well, I've asked. It's supposed to be like 10 to take me to the Hyatt that is literally a mile away. And I would go down the line, and all the Muslims would laugh at me and say no. And they weren't just doing it to me. I thought maybe they know who I am. They were doing it to other families, people from Spain. They were doing it to people from Japan. Finally, there was one old British guy. He takes me for the 10 pounds. I give him like 20. He goes, this country isn't what it is anymore. They do that all day. I got to watch it, and nothing's ever done about it. I report it, and nothing's done. It's illegal. And these were cab drivers. You have to understand, okay, driving the black cabs and also the yellow ones and, the old-fashioned looking cars. And it happened to me the next time. I mean, it's crazy. How do they get away with this?
That's it, mate. I've watched my whole life in the taxi trade in Luton where there's been actual murders. There's been murders and gang violence amongst the cab trades to control the streets. And it's like what I said, if you control the streets, you control the city, you control the town. And that's what happens. And you see them come in en masse in numbers. As we've grown up in Luton with taxis, if there's ever a problem with a taxi, hundreds of them will come. But this is not the same. And you know what we get told? This is what we've been told. Because with the sex exploitation, the grooming gangs that we've all seen across the UK, the taxis, the Muslim taxis have been a pivotal part of that to ferry the children around. Now, what our politicians come out and say is the reason for this is opportunism.
And let me stop you there. You were the first to say a decade ago they were grooming girls en masse. Now, mainstream papers say per town, thousands of little girls, some of which end up being killed, many of which they're forced into sex slavery by the Muslims, and the police are so corrupt, they will do nothing about it.
That's it. And it sounds so, if you listen to that, it sounds so crazy. That's how it is. 1,400 girls is an estimate. A low estimate. It's actually a lot more than that. That's in one small northern town. Now, they've identified 74 British towns. The Muslim gangs have been ferrying these children from one town to the other, all connected. They use taxis as a major way of doing this. Nothing's been done. Nothing's been done all over the years. Now, why? What we keep saying is because we get told it's because of the opportunity. That's why these Muslim taxi drivers are involved in it. Well, non-Muslim taxi drivers aren't doing it. They're not ferrying. Just today, Alex, just today, another 4 Muslim men have been found guilty and convicted in the city of Newcastle, where just 3 weeks ago, another 18 men were convicted in that same city. All Muslim men, all from different backgrounds, whether they be Turkish, Kurdish.
Because part of Islam is sex trafficking women and children. It's what their business was before. It's what it was before that area was Muslim. The crossroads there at Mecca are on record to have been a slave trading crossroads to the entire Middle East at that time. It's a fact. And women are lower than low under this culture.
Sex slavery is legit. Muhammad said, I know if you read the life of Muhammad, you'll see it as he walked past one of his own men. He said, have you derobed her yet? Yeah, his other man said, no. He said, give her here. These are stories. And multiple times, if you pick up the Quran, it says multiple times you can take, outside of your 4 wives, take whatever your right arm possesses, the arm of the sword. You can take non-Muslim women as sexual slaves outside of your 4 wives.
That's right. You are seen as animals by the Muslims, and they teach them in their madrasas to tell everybody they're friendly, everything's great, and then you are openly seen as an animal to be fed on because you're in the house of war, you're not in the house of Islam. But, of course, they can't stop it once they have total control. They just keep killing each other because everything's the house of war, because it is a giant army of pedophiles. So back in the early 1970s, they had arrested Glenn Danzig for wearing makeup on one of his shows in London, because he was a punk rocker. They want to lock us up, put us in their pretty pens. But now London isn't a British hell. I think it's a nice city. It's an Islamic hell. And I want to ask Tommy Robinson and then intersperse some of your calls on a bunch of different subjects, because Tommy's a smart guy and can comment on those. What does he think the big end game here is? We know the left's allied with Islam. We know this is happening. We know that most Muslims I know actually don't want to be under Orthodox Islam and are in their own bullied, crazy system. So let's be honest, a lot of them actually do just want to go get a degree and have a job and drink beer and watch football. But they're all henpecked by the men that control it. And then a lot of the imams are not these upstanding guys you hear, just like a lot of the Christians aren't. They are gangster controllers. And then I see Hillary, the previous British government, the French and others supporting radical Orthodox Islam to take over and overthrow the countries where women go to college, where people want to get rid of the hijab, where they want to be westernized. So I want to ask Tommy Robinson of the Rebel Media, best-selling author of Muhammad's Quran, which I know is sold out right now, and he also wrote a previous book, what is it, Enemy of the State. But Tommy, why, or if you disagree, explain it to me, why is the left selling out? Is it just for short-term power? Or the left historically so hates squares? Not that we're really squares, we just want to have a decent life and be honorable. That there's some type of weird cuckolding, or they get off on allying with Islam because they're scared of it because it won't compromise, and so they think it'll be their friend. Because the more you appease it, most of the Islamicists go hit gay bars and liberal rock events. And I mean, the Muslims tend to attack the people that are already bowing down to it.
I'd say it's a mixture. I'd say what we're seeing politically in the UK is the left and the Labour Party understanding the future better than we do. And so, say for example, in Luton again, if I bring you back to Luton, the demographic will change for Luton by 2030. Now, these are government figures. Now, for those of you who don't know who Luton is my birth town. Luton's 30 miles north of London. It has a population of 200,000 people, 50,000 of which are Muslim. Now, the Labour Party regain power every year through the Muslim vote. That's every year. Now, but the demographic will change by 2030. The Pakistani and Bangladeshi community are going to increase by 70 to 77%. Well, our community is going to increase by 1.3 to 1.4. So the Labour Party simply understand fully where the future lies in the town of Luton. Now, if I bring you to Manchester, I've been researching a lot for Manchester because I'm doing a talk there.
So it's a purely sociopathic decision. But why did they begin the Islamic invasion? I mean, you have the plan going back, what, 100 years ago with the Austrian count who famously had that whole Kalari plan where they wanted to do this. This has been a plan for a while.
Yeah. So I'd say, that's why I say it's a mixture of things. So on the ground in different cities, it's different people, different reasons, regaining power, keeping power, understanding that Islam is probably going to help them with the future power of towns and cities. With regards to the flooding and the introduction of North Africa into Europe as one big superpower and bringing everyone together in order to have a grey-coloured population, that's a different story, I'd say, to what we're seeing. So that the original reasons for doing it and the original operation of doing it and the influx of people, whether it be this recent refugee crisis, that differs then when you get to the towns and cities. For example, Manchester, which is where the last bombing was, the Islamic community doubled over 10 years. It's currently 100,000 people in that city. So in another 10 years, at the same rate, it will be 200,000 people. Now, Andy Burnham, who's the mayor of Manchester, the Labour Party mayor of Manchester, who was very vocal after the recent terrorist attack. Now, he works hand in hand, side by side, shares platforms with radical extremist organisations called MEND. One of the imams for MEND, talking in a Greater Manchester mosque, he told his congregation, and this is all recorded, he told his congregation, all political parties will work with us because we now can swing the vote on 30 seats in Parliament.
So let's explain. Because they vote as one cult block, it doesn't matter what the majority even wants. They will be under Islamic rule, which is desperately craved for 1,400 years and is the religious race consciousness of the political movement.
Well, we recently had an election and Labour gained 30 seats. And Andy Burnham and all these people, that's the question that most people ask. Why would they be working with them? Why would they be hand in hand with the radical extremists? Because they will regain power and they will keep power. They will get power through working with them. And that's exactly it. They organise. In Luton, we have the Central Council of Mosques, and they have one leader. And that one leader is in charge of 30 mosques. And he sits down and does deals with the council. And this is when that's what Americans need to understand, is the point at which we become completely irrelevant. White English class, white working class, irrelevant. You're irrelevant in the scheme of the democratic process now. remember that only 30 to 40 people in the UK, 40% of people in the UK now vote. So that's what we see at the level of why now. Why are they doing this in this city? Why is it happening in this city? Why are they giving full Islam full control? Why are they getting everything they want? Because they regain power and they will keep power with them. Now, the original reasons for the flooding, which we've seen, when you look at what's happening in Sweden, I can sit there and cry. When I go through country from country and I hear the stories and read the stories, you probably do it yourself. You drive yourself insane. I read the stories daily of what's happening to women and what's happening at the hands of these men, what their men are saying to them. And just think that an invading army is coming to Europe, they're raping their way through it, and the European men are sitting on their backside, sitting watching EastEnders on TV. And it's just to pull your hair out of the cowardice that we've bred. The cowardice that we've bred. And it's like, and everything is siding on their side, whether it be the media, the politicians, the police, the government. It's all for them. It's all to help facilitate this invasion. Whilst you think you'll sit there pulling your hair out and screaming till you're blue in the face, trying to oppose it or trying to highlight it, and trying to know, the maddest thing is trying to know what we should do to try and stop it. Because we can see it happening, and we can see the change with our own eyes. Anyone can. And it's like I had an interview earlier where the man who was interviewing me was talking about how people were judging all these things on headlines in papers, which were fake news. I said, we don't need headlines. We see it with our own eyes. We know the people affected. We know the girls. We know the mums. We know what's happening. Sorry, I'm getting myself wound up and frustrated by it. I do every time.
Tommy, continue breaking this down as somebody on the front lines who first really raised the alarm.
Continue. I first raised the alarm in 2004. First time. This is all recorded. I organised a demonstration called Ban the Loot and Taliban. That's what I called it. And that was because at that time, what I wasn't aware of, after the Beslan massacre, I watched online as local Muslims in my hometown, who I had no idea who they were. Local Muslims in my hometown said an attack like this will be justified on an English school. Now, mark my words, Alex, an attack on one of our schools is coming, and it's coming soon. They are going to attack our schools. Every single school currently in the UK are practicing emergency lockdowns. The children have to hide under the tables. They have to act as though intruders are in the schools. That's what they're practicing now. I thought it was just my kid's school. I thought it was because it was my kid, until I started speaking to other parents. And I see that these are going on across the whole country. They're getting the children ready because they know they're going to attack a school. We go to the Jewish schools. They've got bomb-proof windows. They've got massive areas around them where they have men walking to protect them. We know that these people are going to attack our kids. We know it. And we know it, and they're doing nothing about it. Nothing about it. The same men, are still walking our streets. They're still living amongst us. And I first saw that in 2004. And that's when I started, and my eyes were opened to the Islamic ideology. I started reading and learning about who these people were. And they had a group in my hometown called Al-Mujahideen, Omar Bakri, Abu Hamza. Their base was in my town. And they were promoting, and I was so gobsmacked. As a 21-year-old young English lad, I started looking, and who are these men? And how are they able to do this? And the 2004 was the first demonstration where I organised all of our men from football to come out and protest against them. And it was called Ban the Loot and Taliban. And in the leaflets, it made it clear, whites and blacks, I've still got copies of these leaflets, whites and blacks are being religiously and racially targeted. Our women are being sexually abused and groomed. These men have come into our communities and they're selling heroin. If we know what shops, I know what shops they use to sell heroin. If I know what shops, why are the police not stopping them? Why are they not stopping what's happening? And every single thing that you go along, every single thing, it's just the level, the two-tier level of policing and the way they allow them, what they're allowing them to do to our town. That was the start for me in 2004, and I've not closed my... It's impossible to close your eyes.
Well, that's the next thing. They called him a hooligan, one football fan at the London Bridge attack. They called him the Lion of London Bridge. Fought off and fought 3 guys stabbing him and saved a bunch of people. And the media kind of halfway criticized him for even daring fight. Like you're supposed to show your neck to the Muslim and say, plunge your knife in here. And then the police always pose with him and the government defends him. Even Theresa May backhandedly attacks Trump. I mean, this is sick, 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 sick behavior. But then if you mildly criticize Islam, as you've been arrested and harassed many times, but now they leave you alone some of the time because they know you won't back down, you have attention, they go to universities where students criticize ISIS and they get in trouble, or people criticize a terror attack and the police come after them like they've done something wrong.
Alex, I'll send you a message. When I hang up from me, I'll send you a message I received today from a 14-year-old school child. A 14-year-old school child who, when they were talking to him about Islam, he pointed out to them in school that it's dangerous for our country. The teacher had a go at him. They then began speaking about the burqa, at which point he said it's a threat and it should be banned. He was sent out of class, kicked out of his school class.
Is this your son?
No, this isn't my son. This is a 14-year-old school child who's contacting me today. I received messages. I've received messages from another school child. Many of them are school children, because what's happening in our education system, you're not allowed an opinion. You're not allowed to tell the truth.
Well, no, but I've been reading where they even take them to mosque. They make them go to mosque.
Every single child goes to the mosque. Every single child goes to the mosque. Now, and it would take me, this is what winds me up. You give me the name of the mosque that they're taking them to, and give me 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, I will find you hatred. I will find you extremism. I will find you past speakers who are bigots, who are fascists, who the sheer fact that you're bringing our children to these places, the sheer fact that you're doing that, and that we're supposed to just, and you know, when some parents say they don't want their children to go, they have to sit outside the office like they've done something wrong, like they're being punished. And that's the problem even in the education system currently now. I had one child messaging me who was then suffering from mental health issues because of the targeting he had at school. He said the police, two men in suits, which were police officers, come to see him because he said Islam is a fascist ideology and a violent ideology. And that's the truth. You're penalising our children for telling the truth. I've seen this myself. I've seen this with my own children. I've seen what's going on in schools. I've seen what the teachers are pushing.
Tommy, what do we do? I mean, what do we do to stand against this?
It's knowing that is the question. And all I've said is, for years, I've had this even off my wife. You can imagine my wife, my mum and dad just saying, stop, 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 stop. What can you do? What can you do? And this is where even my wife's nan, I come home, Muslims were setting fire to poppies. They were burning poppies on Remembrance Day, on our most important day, during a 2-minute silence. And they were screaming, burn, soldiers, burn, British soldiers, burn. And I was arrested that day for trying to prevent them burning those poppies. Now, when I got home, my wife's nan was there with her mum. And they said, you've been arrested again. I said, yes, I have. You expect me to stand there while men burn our most sacred symbol, whilst our old people have to walk down the street and hear terrorists screaming, burn, soldiers, burn, British soldiers, burn. I said, no. And then she said, it's too late. It's too late. And I said, this is where we have to really rise up, because it's not too late. It's a dangerous time, but realistically, 5 to 10% of our country is Muslim. If everyone had that opinion, that weak opinion, that opinion that it's too late in the 30s, we'd all be German, and we'd all be frog marching doing Hitler salutes. And people didn't have that opinion. No, people back then would run, they'd kiss their family goodbye. They'd be 14 years old and they'd be lying and pretending they're 16. They'd be pretending they're 16 so they could go out and die and fight for Britain and save our country. And right now, everyone's scared to even pull their curtains back or talk. People are scared to open their mouths. And that's because they've got most people financed up to the hill, mortgaged up to the hill, in a position where if you talk at work, you lose your job, and then you can't provide for your family, which I'd say has purposely been done as well. So they've got a populace that can be controlled through fear and intimidation, starting at the top. As soon as you express your free speech, they come banging down on you and beat you down. And this is time and time again. You see people in every industry in the UK who are losing their jobs, being penalised and being taken in for simply telling the truth about Islam. Now, I remember going to East Germany last year and meeting men from East Germany who were protesting these issues. And they said, we've seen this before. I said, what do you mean? He said, this is communism reinvented. We've seen it. You can't talk about it. Shh, you lose your job. You can't speak about it. He said, what we're seeing now with the way that these are older men, he goes, we lived through this. We lived through this. It's exactly the same. It's just a new enemy. It's a new ideology. It's Islam, and exactly the same. And that's why you see in countries like East Germany, in the Czech Republic, in these countries that know what it's like to fight for your freedom, they fully understand what's happening. And they're fully out on the streets. Their prime ministers, whether it be the president of Czech Republic, whether it be their politicians in Hungary, whether it be people who have experienced this oppression on your freedom, they know what it's like. You go to West Germany compared to East Germany, they're all embracing it and sucking it up. They think it's something to be celebrated. They have no idea. We have no idea. In our generation growing up, we think that this is how life is. We think that life's perfect and it's easy and there's no war and Britain and the things that are happening around the world won't happen in Britain. Well, they are happening. We've seen them happening. 4 terrorist attacks in the last 4 months. They're going to happen. And Islam will do exactly the same to our country as it's done to every other country it's ever gone to.
All right, Tommy Robinson, stay there. We're going to come back and take calls on a bunch of different issues. But the reason I raise all this is there's the entitlement by the Islamicists. And now that their numbers are high enough, they know they've compromised our governments. They are very arrogant in major publications that they're going to conquer us. They say your women belong to us. And now the police in most areas treat them like they are godlike royalty. So I want to ask, why are the Islamicists so arrogant? Is that all that, I mean, just what is it? And we'll discuss it all. Tommy Robinson is our guest. We have a very informative guest, the owner of a wonderful radio station up in Chicago, Matt Dubiel, that carries our show. He's going to be hosting the 4th hour. I know I should go to these calls, Jeremy and Angie and Ryan and Dan and Nick. We're talking to Tommy Robinson, and there's all these other subjects there. But if you want to know what we're facing as a culture and a society, just look at what the government's doing with Orthodox radical Islam. And it tells you. And we really are under assault. And our elites are allied with it. They didn't go into the Middle East to defeat it. They went in the Middle East to knock out the guys that weren't bad, to put the bad guys in charge, and that's now declassified. Obama and Hillary did help create ISIS. The Democrats are trying to block Trump crushing ISIS. So that's why Hollywood hates Russia, because they're fighting Islam. Tommy, your take on Russia and all the demonization of Russia and the fact that they've gone back to being Christian and are fighting for their survival as well in Eastern Europe, you know, not committing suicide. That may be the only areas left in the West is what used to be the pure West, politically and Christian-wise, until it got overrun by Islam dozens of times. That's why they have the ancestral memory of being overrun. I mean, you've just been to Europe. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, if you look at Eastern Europe, if it be Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, which I can see now the EU will now attempt to destabilise those countries and destabilise their governments. That's what I believe they will do, because they are the last defence. They are actually speaking for their people. Putin is speaking for his people. And when you see what the Czech Republic, what Poland, what Hungary are saying, the reason they're so honest is because they don't have millions of Muslims in their country that will blow things up and go all sort of shit and crazy as soon as something's said. Whereas in our countries, you know, in Britain, if we didn't have 4 million Muslims, our leaders would be talking very differently about Islam. They would be, but once we're infected and it's in our country, which it is, and it's so powerful in our country, and it's so dangerous in our country, all of our leaders bend over backwards. And that's what we're seeing. So I look, and I think the rest of us in Europe need to look to Eastern Europe. We look to them for guidance and help in the problems that we're going to face. And you're right, again, about all this demonisation about Putin. I don't understand it. I don't understand it in the sense that he's not a coward and he's a man. And that's what seems to be the problem. And I know, like, even one of Putin's top representatives, when they were talking about the problems in France, he said, well, if your police were used to dealing with real things instead of just having LGBT rallies, which, look, I know there's problems in Russia as well, but the reality is we as Western Europe have become so weak and pathetic. So weak and pathetic. When you look to Russia, you see real men. When I look to Hungary, I see real men. When I look to Poland, I see real men. That's what I see. And that's why I'm frustrated at the average man that we've created in the West. We've become so weak.
So, in your gut, are they going to win? I mean, will the West just commit suicide?
The West is in the process of committing suicide. I see, this is the problem. This is where it gets so, there is no peaceful solution to this. There is no way of sorting this problem out without utter chaos. Now, there's no way. So it can't be sorted, but at some point we will have to have that utter chaos. Now, it's either the governments accept it and try and deal with it now. Now, I think it will happen when Le Pen gets in or when Wilders gets in or when one political party gets in that tries to enforce the law. The laws are already there. Try to enforce the law upon the Islamic community, we will see mass carnage. And that will spread across the whole of Europe. But that day has to happen. It has to come.
Final 30-second comment, Tommy.
Final 30-second comment. America, if you're watching this, please learn from our mistakes. Please learn. You have to look at us. You have to. If I had one thing, I would wish someone come to my country 20 years ago, and I would wish they told me. I would wish that our government were warned, that our people were warned. This is what's going to happen.
Well, you're a modern Paul Revere. Thank you, Tommy. I'm going to take calls and hand the baton to Matt Dubiel. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. Infowars.com, newswars.com. We'll be back this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central. Matt Dubiel of our great Chicago affiliate that we'll give you the call letters and frequency to here in just a moment is going to be coming up, co-hosting with me into the 4th hour. And he has a big interview he did that he's going to be premiering here that you do not want to miss. So definitely stay with us for that. That's WCKG, and the number is 11:30 a.m. in Chicago. WCKG, 11:30 a.m. been carrying us 15:30 a.m. Yeah, that's how we do it around here. WCKG, 15:30 a.m. because it's always good when you got somebody co-hosting for you and the radio station to tell folks in the bio where they're from. WCKG, 15:30 a.m. Sorry I messed that up. Going from my old memory here and just I didn't get that right. So 15:30 a.m. I screwed up again. 15:30 a.m. WCKG. That is coming up with Matt Dubiel. Okay, right now, let's go back to the phone calls here. Jeremy in New Mexico. You're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, 3 things. 2 quick comments and then a comment about North Korea. The first one is a request for if you guys could put all 3 shows on your internet stream that's on your website and on the apps, because all 3 shows are not there. And originally they were, and they were looping, and it was awesome, but they're not.
Yeah, no, I set up InfoWars, and I did it. And I told folks when we launched the shows they had to be separate streams, and we don't have that yet. And so we'd go bankrupt if I took my show off and put the other shows on, because they don't bring in half of the revenue per hour that mine does. They're great shows. They inform people. They're important. They do a great job, a better job than I do in most cases. But the formula is I can't then preempt my show in the age of internet for other shows. You understand? We must put out more streams, not have one stream we all share in North Korea. See, the American system is you build more. You don't have one pizza, you have a pizza factory. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, it totally makes sense. Hey, okay, so thank you for answering that. The second question I have, or I guess request, is, as you know, Pete Santilli's still in jail. And I was wondering if you could send one of your smart guys like Kit or somebody like that to go have a sit-down with him and tell his story. Because, you know, man, the dude was unarmed and was a journalist, and he's in jail still for reporting. And I think that it's a story.
But you got to remember, you just got to remember about talk radio, that everybody isn't in like 100% informed. And you and I are sitting around a campfire right now. You got to say, in the Bundy case, there was a reporter. And as we know, they've already had a couple of the trials thrown out. The judges have run kangaroo operations. They clearly have. And they even put a guy in there, and it's questionable if he ever made any threats. And it's a dangerous precedent for America, for the press. We've said all that. We've said all that. We've done that. We've had reporters there. We've covered it all. And quite frankly, I sent reporters to the Bundy thing, and a lot of people use it as like it's a beauty pageant or something, that, oh, this is our thing, InfoWars. You're not even wanted here. We lead this. Get out of here. So we're like, absolutely, we're going to let you run your whole deal here. So you have to understand, I don't stick my arm down wood chippers or in garbage disposals or down badger holes. Because you understand, when you actually go out to these events and stuff, people that usually haven't had any success and they're at an event, they're not really covering it, they're becoming the event, and it's very, very territorial. That's why I don't do a lot of events or go out and do stuff. I just do my little thing here, just my little thing, if it's okay with everybody. And then that's my broadcast. Everybody else has theirs. See? Thanks for the call. We've covered the Bundy thing at nauseum and said it's all wrong and it's terrible. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. Matt Dubiel of WCKG, 1530 AM, Chicago's coming up.
Hey, it's Matt Dubiel, and I'm filling in for Alex for the 4th hour. If you're watching at Infowars.com, you may be seeing some wacky guy with a set of binoculars. And this is one of those tricks. This is one of those propagandist tricks they use. Have you seen this? Have you seen Little Kim do this? They'll show a tight shot. This is brilliant. And being a guy that's in the media, I own a radio station here in Chicago. I've been carrying the Alex Jones Show for years. Come out to meet the fine folks at InfoWars and Rob Dew and everybody there. Good people and amazing infrastructure, amazing stuff happening there at InfoWars. And so I'm a media guy. So when I see there he is, there's Lil Kim with his binoculars. And this is one of those things that they do in the media and in the propaganda circles, namely Kim's staff and his ministry of propaganda, is they show Kim in certain lights, right? They want to make him seem a certain way. And if you're a performer, you want this. If you're like a magician on the stage doing a show, you want this because you want the audience to see the show a certain way. If you're the Rolling Stones, you want the audience to see the show a certain way. And even if you're Alex Jones and the InfoWars crew, you want them to see the show a certain way. Their way happens to be a truthful way, a authentic way, a transparent way. And the Kim Jong-un, Lil Kim way, Rocket Man way, is to show Kim standing, like looking through binoculars. And when, it's one of those things where if they showed you what he was truly looking at and the real distance between him with the binoculars and whatever he's looking at, and they showed like the real shot, kind of like when CNN, remember when CNN got busted for showing, for using green screens and manufacturing news during the Gulf War in the 90s? They got busted. They got totally busted manufacturing and sometimes you'll see them do that with the split screen on Fox News or MSNBC and things, where they'll have two people on the screen, split screen, but they're just next to each other. They're in the same studio. And so why does Kim Jong-un constantly have his ministry of propaganda taking pictures of him with the binoculars, making him look a certain way? Well, they want to make it look like he's doing important stuff. Because if they show the pictures of him, Fatso Kim, eating bowls of noodles real fast and playing Pokemon Go, you would not respect him as a dictator, as a ruthless dictator, as a scary man. But boy, when they put him in the Dr. Evil, when he dresses like Dr. Evil, and I don't know if he uses a Dr. Evil voice or not, but when they show him in his Dr. Evil garb next to the sharks with frickin' laser beams on their heads, and then he looks through the binoculars, all of a sudden, he looks like a menace. And what is so brilliant about our president, but listen, I'm not a Trump Krishna here. I'm not going to say like, oh, everything Donald Trump does is great. Everything Donald Trump does is great. Oh, he's the greatest. He's the greatest. No, he's a human being. There's a reason why, the good book recommends that we not idolize anybody. It's because human beings, men have flaws. They all have flaws. But you could set it right there. Thank you. Thanks very much. My wife just brought me some coffee as if I need any more caffeine. Because I'm fired up about Kim Jong-un, the rocket man with his binoculars. So, as I was saying, President Trump can do wrong. He's not perfect. However, one of the things he's really good at, one of the things he's fantastic at, maybe the best, the greatest in the world, he does this big league, is he immediately shattered the BS that has been built up by Little Kim's ministry of propaganda and the rest of the world. the Western world's arm of the Ministry of Propaganda, which is CNN. Yeah. I mean, they may not be officially on the payroll of Kim Jong-un, but they're doing his bidding. Every time they show you binoculars and Kim Jong with his Hillary Clinton Dr. Evil outfit, I mean, they might as well just splice in scenes from Austin Powers and show the sharks with freaking laser beams on their head. Because that's what he's trying to purport. He's trying to show that he's macho, or whatever the word for macho is in Korean. Maybe somebody can look that up. Maybe that's on the Wikipedia. What is the Korean word for macho? But he's trying to look macho. And what did our president do with one word, or maybe two words, depending on how you look at it? He called him the Rocket Man. And it was like, this is why this guy is good. That doesn't mean he's good at everything. Doesn't mean he's perfect at everything. But man, he just dismantled that lunatic and all the lunatics that follow him in one felt swoop. I heard something, but I wasn't sure what it is. Would you stop the hammering? Somebody stop the hammering. I didn't catch what you said. I can see the timer though. So who am I and what am I doing here sitting in? This is clearly, if you're watching at Infowars.com or on the Infowars social media channels, you see a guy with the Infowars t-shirt, which I hope they still have these at the Infowars store at Infowars.com. This is my favorite Infowars shirt. I love it. It's got a real G.I. Joe vibe to it. People see me. I've been all over the world in this shirt. I mean, I washed it in between, of course, but I've been all over the world in this shirt, okay? And everywhere I go, this is not an exaggeration. Everywhere I go, people want to know if I know Alex. I've talked to people in Jamaica. I've talked to people in Ireland. I've talked to people in London. And when I'm wearing this shirt, they ask me, and it's usually a mix of very well-to-do people that are spending money and vacationing and staying at these properties. That's some of them. And then what blows people's minds is the mix, the potpourri of regular people like you and I who come up to me. And a lot of times it's people that work at the resorts. In fact, I sent Alex and his crew a video of one of the staffers. I didn't send it to you today, guys, so but I'll find it maybe for Monday, where somebody came up to me at a pool in Jamaica. We were doing a live broadcast. I was wearing this shirt. You can get it at Infowars.com. It's my favorite. And it's the black shirt with it's got a kind of a G.I. Joe America sort of look, and it says Infowars. And I'm wearing this shirt, and one of the girls that works on the kitchen staff comes up to me and says, do you, and she has like a Jamaican accent, man. And she's like, do you know Alex? And I was like, do you know who Alex is? And she's like, yeah, we all watch Infowars. And I'm like, come on, really? 5 feet from us, I walked down a little bit further to go do something else after we said goodbye. Another guy came up to me and asked me about Infowars and Alex Jones. And this was right before Donald Trump took out the trash and beat Hillary in the election. And it was exciting. So I am a radio station owner. I'm a broadcaster. I am a patriot in my own way. Not as much as I'd like to be. It's not easy to be. And I'm a father. You might have seen the Twitter feed and the cool people at Infowars. The best staff in broadcasting, by the way. I mean, Alex and the crew there have amazing, really talented people that really know their stuff. They asked if they could, is it cool to show my Twitter feed? And it is absolutely cool because the most important thing that I am is a father and a husband. Coming up in this hour, this extra hour, hopefully Alex is getting his temples rubbed and having a cool drink, even just water or some chilled bone broth, because I want him to relax a little bit. I hope that he's finding some time to relax. I've never seen somebody work so hard, so tirelessly. So it's a delight for me to be able to lighten the load a little bit and help out. But on this extra hour today, we're going to be talking about some things that I've been noticing, some things that have been happening in Chicago. We're definitely going to be discussing the fatherhood and what it's like being a man in America and those challenges. And we're going to talk about them with a guy that I had the opportunity to interview, and I recorded the interview. We're going to play it. The guy is the most popular podcaster on planet Earth. In fact, he's doing a show tomorrow night. It's like a comedy show in Chicago, which is how I get these guests, right? They usually have something to promote. But this particular guy has been fighting for conservative values, and he's ensconced in Hollywood. He's surrounded by that Hollywood liberal sick'em vibe. So we're going to talk to Adam Carolla. We're going to play that interview for you, and we're going to talk to him about exactly how he approaches life and marriage and snowflakes, how he has avoided being ostracized in Hollywood like many before him. Tim Allen, what's the girl's name from Clueless? I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but she's been in the news. No, not Alicia Silverstone. The actress that she's a black girl and she's conservative. Stacey, yes. Her pictures are all over the place, and she's been. Maybe she wouldn't work anyway. Maybe she wouldn't get a lot of work in Hollywood. But the minute you come out as conservative in any way in Hollywood, you're typically ostracized. That happened with Tim Allen, happened with Stacey Dash, is that what her name is? And it didn't happen to Adam Carolla. I'll tell you exactly how he's fighting it and how that can apply to our lives. We'll talk about that coming up. We'll talk with Adam Carolla, and we'll also talk about Mayor Bloomberg's $2 million spend to keep people in Chicago, even though he's in New York, from drinking sugary drinks. Makes no sense. And we're going to stop the hammering. It's hot in Chicago. My name is Matt Dubiel, and I'm filling in for Alex Jones for the 4th hour here at Infowars.com and on fabulous radio stations around America and the world. They were asking me about the cigar I'm smoking so I'm in my own studio in Chicago, and there is no AC in this particular studio that I'm in, and Chicago is experiencing unseasonable warm weather. Now, the lunatics will start saying, well, see, that's because of the climate change and the warming and the globalness and the emissions. No, here's what it is. I'm going to explain to you exactly what it is, as it was explained to me by my father and by the Chicago Tribune for years. In fact, every year they put a story in the Chicago Tribune exactly telling you why it got warm like this. And it wasn't every year, but it was some years. So anyway, if you see me sweating, it's a little bit because I'm nervous sitting in for the biggest radio show on planet Earth. And it's also mostly because it's like 87 and humid here. But there's something you should know about me besides being a radio station owner and being a big fan of everything InfoWars. I've never had a cavity. And I'm very proud of that. And one of the reasons that I've never had a cavity is because I take care of my teeth. It's not easy to do, especially when you have children and you see all the crap that's in the toothpaste that they sell. Really, it's poison. The poison that they sell in the tube at the grocery store, if you look at it, it actually says, don't let your kids or yourselves ingest the poison. This stuff is poisonous, and if you get more than a little bit of this poisonous stuff in your body, you got to call poison control. That's what happens. So the solution to that is very simply to get the Super Blue fluoride free. There's no poison in the Super Blue. That's the good part, and it's now 50% off retail at InfoWarsStore.com. For a limited time, they've got Super Blue fluoride free toothpaste. Now, if you're an adult and you like the minty fresh feeling and you want the peppermint, good. For the kids, you may want to get the bubble gum because it's bubble gum. It tastes like bubble gum. The new Super Blue fluoride-free mouthwash is 50% off. Deep research indicates that unhealthy gums can contribute to the development of heart disease and even heart attacks. A lot of people don't know this. They think that you're not supposed to, eat butter. And too much butter is bad and too much salt is bad. But actually taking care of your teeth is a better way to keep your heart and your system clear of plaque. So do that for yourself. Get some of the peppermint or the bubble gum, Super Blue fluoride free, and all the products are 50% off right now at InfoWarsStore.com. So do that. It's important to do that because that is how this operation is funding. I was telling you, or is funded, I should say. I was telling you that I have got a conversation coming up with Adam Carolla. And Adam Carolla, if you're not familiar, he hosted the Man Show on television. He was in Crank Anchors. He was a radio host. Dr. Drew and him hosted a show called Loveline. And Adam's had a very good career on the radio. But he's also kind of a Hollywood guy. And so you might have seen him in movies and on TV shows. He was on Dancing with the Stars. And if you've noticed lately, the people in Hollywood, like Tim Allen, and there's others. There's other conservatives, even Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner. I'm gonna call. Can I call him Bruce Jenner? Is that cool? I'm gonna call him Bruce Jenner. Even Bruce Jenner. Hate mail can go to something at Infowars.com. Don't send me the hate mail. But Bruce Jenner was even ostracized somewhat, even though he had the transition card to pull out. But he's been lambasted for being conservative. And what happens in Hollywood is when you're conservative, you have your livelihood is threatened sometimes. Adam has sort of put a protective bubble around himself and protected himself from that treatment somehow. By the way, that is the same protective bubble that InfoWars has. And that's why they sell products. That's why they have the toothpaste and the T-shirts that, this shirt that I'm wearing, the InfoWars, I call it the G.I. Joe shirt. That's why they have that stuff. It's to keep them impenetrable and save them from having to kowtow or change their perspective or their insights or their viewpoints in order to make a living. Think of how powerful that is and how liberating that is. I'm hoping that when you listen to my conversation with Adam Carolla, for instance, he's coming to town to promote a comedy show, but we started talking about some real issues, how to keep yourself protected. And this may apply for you also in your job. If you want to have freedom of speech, well, freedom of speech isn't always free. So how do you insulate yourself? Well, you could sell your own toothpaste, but there's other ways. Adam will share how he did it. We'll talk to Adam in a little bit, and we'll talk about Chicago's drink tax. It's Matt Dubiel filling in for Alex Jones in the fourth hour. In a few seconds, we're going to start. I'm going to play you my conversation with Adam Carolla. And we talk about the incoming or the, what do they say? Like everyone is saying, not everyone, people on the internet are saying that tomorrow, September 23rd, is the end. It's the tribulation. And Adam and I are going to talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk about how he handles snowflakes and insulates himself from the Hollywood crowd that wants to essentially steal your income if you make a statement against something they believe in. I'm smoking this cigar here, and there's a meme on the internet with Hillary Clinton on top of a big cigar, and I didn't really understand what it was. They said something about it being like an elf on a shelf, and I didn't get it at first. And then when I heard the word blunt, I got it. Anyway, I got some copies of Hillary's America that Dinesh D'Souza gave me, and I've got at least 5 copies. I'm going to just give them away randomly to some of my Twitter followers. I'm not a big Twitter guy. I don't tweet a lot, but I thought it would be fun. I've watched this movie, so if you want a copy of the movie, I'm just going to give 5 copies of this randomly to people on my Twitter feed because it would be fun. And I want more people to see this movie. Dinesh did a really great job on this. And he sent me a bunch of these a while back to give away. And we promoted the movie. And I would love to give you a copy. So I'm pretty excited for you to hear what Adam Carolla shares with us in this talk. It's, well, I'll let you hear it in your own words. And he's going to really talk about fighting against the Hollywood sort of liberal vibe. And he's on the phone. Is he on the phone? Let's take a call from Adam now.
Adam.
Yes.
Good day to you, sir.
Good day. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. You're coming back to Chicago. This is exciting. Do you know on September 23rd, the litany of catastrophic events that are being predicted around the world? Have you heard this?
No, what's being predicted? What's being predicted?
Well, for me to explain it, I'm not the fire and brimstone guy, but there was the eclipse, and a lot of these guys on YouTube are saying that there's a culmination of cosmic events that all point to September 23rd and the beginning of the tribulation. Are you involved in that? Is that what you're bringing to the Shy here?
Yeah, I was going to kick off the tribulation. I was going to announce it on stage, but if you're going to tell your audience about it beforehand, then I guess I have no choice but to announce it now. Yeah, I'm gonna do the ribbon cutting ceremony on the tribulation.
I want to share with people though what it is they can expect when they go to see you at the Park West on September 23rd, because it's not your traditional stand-up and it's not what you've done in the past. Is that right?
That is correct. It is a one-man show. It happened that I sort of realized that more than telling jokes and more than telling stories, I sort of like the inspirational stuff and the motivational stuff. As I get older, I just morphed into someone who really enjoyed motivation. And I realized my motivational stories can be really funny, but they can also be sort of motivational. So you can get some, I think with a lot of stand-up, if you're going to just...
The guy that you thought...
Because of my just out kind of what it takes.
Yeah.
But I almost never do that. I drive almost a new car, a different car, every race. But ultimately what it does is it makes you comfortable in all the cars you drive. Not necessarily the fastest, but pretty fast, pretty quick, because your acclimation period is really fast because you're so used to driving so many different cars with different gear patterns and shift patterns, horsepower, blah, blah, blah. So if you take that approach to life and possibly marriage, I think you can get a lot done.
I think that's really that's a great point, because there are those guys that say, just focus on the one thing, just focus on the one thing, focus on the one thing. I guess the argument could be made that you do focus on one thing, and that is being you, and you have different vehicles to do it. But and you mentioned marriage. How long would you put yourself up there as a not a perfect husband, but would you say that's a success of yours beyond your success that everyone else sees?
Yeah, I think I would. I don't really think about it that much, but I guess, as they say in this town, coming on 15 years of marriage.
Yeah.
Not too shabby. I like to sort of think of myself as a good dad and a good husband, a good provider, and a decent guy. Like I really just look at myself as fair in a weird, unromantic way. Like I'm not spontaneous. I'm not sexy. I'm not romantic, but I'm very even, and I'm very yeah, chicks, you getting moist. Yeah. You got a guy over here who's very fair-minded, and I just try to go through life sort of in the middle there. Just treat everyone the same, be kind of fair. Also means be fair to yourself. Just don't expect too much, but don't demand too much. It's just sort of reality on reality's terms, as Dr. Drew likes to say.
You're out in Hollywood, California. I mean, maybe not Hollywood proper, but you're on the West Coast. You've sort of developed into what some would say a conservative voice, even though you may not say that, and I wouldn't necessarily say that. I'm wondering, aside from your media company and the things that you create on your own, are you seeing, like a Tim Allen and others have said, are you seeing any sort of backlash or any justification for you not getting work or based on your ideals or your other projects, like speaking in front of Congress and things like that?
It's weird. So in Hollywood, there doesn't really need to be a backlash. Your phone can just never ring.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess you can call sort of a de facto backlash, but nobody ever calls you and says, hey, we're thinking about you for this project, but since we heard you speak in front of Congress about personal responsibility, now we're out. So you never know. The same way you don't really know if your wife is slowly poisoning you every day with your breakfast cereal until you die. You know, like, it's like, you don't really know. Maybe you don't feel as good as you used to, but you don't really know. The way this town works is it's incredibly liberal, and they will decide who's with them and who is not with them. So if the things I say, you know, legalize marijuana, gay marriage, what have you, consensual crime, they can still call me conservative. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I label myself. It's just they'll decide what you are. So, and they have decided that anybody who essentially crosses any of their tenets is conservative, even if, in fact, you don't meet the criteria of being conservative. So first things first, they decide. Second thing second, they talk about being inclusive nonstop, but if you're Tim Allen, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the way it works. They talk about inclusivity, and they talk about not judging. All they do is judge. Now, they don't judge if you're transgendered, but if you believe in God, they judge. That's the way they work, which makes them hypocrites, obviously. The good news for me is I don't rely on them because I have my own business.
Right.
So I never really have. So I don't go on auditions. I don't submit spec scripts. I don't wait for the phone to ring. I don't talk to my agent. I don't do anything that normal people do, normal people who work in this business do. I go to work every day. I do a podcast. I work on documentaries. I think about writing books. I think about, you know, doing one-man shows. I have 1,000 projects that I'm getting started with, and none of them have to do with studios or networks or Matt Damon. It's just I just go do what I do. That's it, which is great for me because I am impervious to whatever is going on out there in this world called Hollywood, where you can't judge except for all you do is judge all the time. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like I'm probably getting judged for no real good reason. I, you know, take care of my kids, pay my taxes. I don't hurt anybody, and I don't
and you're fair
anybody from anything.
And you're nothing if not fair.
They just decide.
Are you today the guy that you thought you would be back when you were a young guy?
I didn't think I would be anything, so I far exceeded whatever I thought I was going to be because I didn't think about it. I thought about BMX bicycles and football, and that was about it. At some point, I had a notion about getting into comedy, but the notion was really just so I could get paid because I love cars, and it's hard to drive nice cars or race cars. It's a super expensive endeavor. So I had really no thoughts. I also really had no relationship with my dad, so I didn't know what he expected or what he wanted or what he did or who he was, because I didn't have that kind of relationship with my parents. I didn't have any kind of relationship with my parents except for they were just sort of home, and I just would leave and go eat at other people's houses. So I really don't. I really had, because of my sort of bizarre upbringing, which was a non-upbringing, I just sort of wandered around thinking, what's for dinner and what am I going to eat? Like most of my thoughts from 0 to 20 were, where am I going to eat? That was 90% of what I thought. Then later on, I just thought, how do I get out of driving a truck and swinging a hammer for a living? Like, I I fast forwarded to being 40, and I was like, you don't want to be on a construction site when you're 40. Like, and what if you have kids, and how are you going to take care of them, and how are you going to pay a mortgage? And so that was kind of my next thought. And I never had any thoughts about making millions of dollars in show business. I just had thoughts about doing something other than being on a construction site.
What do you tell your kids about the path for the future? Are you saying go to college? Are you saying, go start a business? What do you tell? I think you have at least a couple of kids, right? What do you impart on them, knowing what you now know about this liberating experience of being in control of your life and your business and all that?
I never really was a fan of college. I was a fan of work. I want the kids to work. I want them to learn. I want them to learn how to work. And I want them not to be scared of work. And I want them to kind of embrace work. And that's what I'd like them to do. So as far as college goes, and especially for whatever's going on college campuses these days, and I can only imagine how bad it's going to be in 7 years when they're ready to go to college, I'd like them to find a passion, find an interest, find something that kind of floats their boat, and then not be scared to work. And that's it. All you need really in this country, all you really need is hard work. People talk about luck. People talk about who you know. People talk about white privilege. People talk about everything under the sun. They're forgetting the part where you have to outwork everybody. And the good news is everyone is lazy and soft right now.
So true.
All you have to do is literally just outwork people that are scared of work, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, and you believe that. I mean, I believe it, but you really believe that to your core, right? I mean, if you look around at everybody else.
I don't want to sound like a blowhard. I don't believe it. I know it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're at the Chicago's Park West Theater Saturday, September 23rd, I've heard Seinfeld and others talk about the climate of venues, whether it be college venues or comedy clubs or whatever. Are you experiencing the sort of seepage of this mentality in America where it's super political and super safe spacey, or are you finding that the Carolla fans come out and they know what they're getting and it's good times for everybody?
I'd say the Carolla fans know what they're getting and it's good times, but you can hear the audience if you say something that you may have said a few years ago. You know, you'll hear an audible sort of gasp that you wouldn't have heard a few years ago. You make a gay joke or you make an ethnic joke or something like that. And in the past, all you'd hear is laughter. Now you'd hear a little bit of a, oh, what the, hey. And here comes the helicopter.
AdamCarolla.com. AdamCarolla.com is where you get the tickets, and I'll see you at the Park West. It's always awesome to have you on and talk with you.
We'll say hi after the show.
Awesome.
Or even before.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
One of the things that I love about talking to guys like Adam is you find out things about them and life in general from another person's perspective. And I look at guys like Alex and guys like Adam, even though they're in very different worlds, as being very similar. These are people that have created their own way, and they didn't do it alone. They got lots of people. You know, there's lots of people at InfoWars that help keep Alex on the air. There's lots of people at Adam Carolla's Ace Production Studios that help him keep it going. But they've taken the bull by the horns and they've just worked and worked and worked. And what we find out when we talk to guys like that is we all have so much in common. And what the world seems to be doing today more than ever is demonizing men like that, demonizing leaders that are strong, that are intelligent, that are fair, and that maybe sometimes have differing opinions. And so it's a privilege to be on this platform and sharing some of that with you, because I hope that you listening to this can find a way to do that. Because if you work for somebody, you may not be able to tweet that you feel a certain way. Freedom of speech doesn't forgive you from the consequences of that freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is something that we have in this country without government prosecution. but the people can prosecute you and persecute you. And so how do you avoid that? We'll kind of share some ideas on that. And how do you prepare for the worst, whether it's your income, whether it's your livelihood, whether it's your home life? We're going to talk more about that. It's Matt Dubio filling in for Alex Jones on Infowars.com. It's Matt Dubio filling in for Alex Jones from Chicago. I don't call it the Windy City. Nobody here calls it the Windy City. Today in Chicago, it is, if you can see the video feed at Infowars.com, or whether maybe you're just listening at Infowars.com/show, I'm sweating. I'm sweating like a fat kid at a buffet. And the reason is because it's hot in here and there's no air conditioning, which is why I was just like, screw it, I'm going to have a cigar. Might as well just add to the feverish mix here. But you know, some would say that this is the result of the climate change. I like to say it like the church lady, the climate change. It's the global warming. It's the climate change. I don't believe in that malarkey, but I do believe, and I'm going to tell you how my father explained this weather in September to me growing up and how the Chicago Tribune did. But I want to encourage you, whether you're in Florida, whether you're in Puerto Rico, wherever you are, and this was brought to my attention by the author Tim Ferriss. He wrote the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, and I did an interview with him. And he was talking about living in California. And if there's something happens in California, you're like 15 minutes at least away from getting help. And if there's like a black swan event or a big major earthquake or something, you're not getting any help. And people don't really know what to do. The best thing to do is just to stay prepared. And I'm not talking about in a doomsday prepper. You don't have to go build a bunker, but you know, maybe you put a little bit of the storable food at your place. There's a 50% off. You get to take 50% off InfoWars Select storable food at InfoWarsStore.com. It's only for a limited time with the coupon code, get this, READY. Listen to the radio. Listen to the top 40 station. Listen to the news station. Listen to the country station in your market when Alex isn't on, and when David Knight isn't on, and when Owen Schroyer isn't on. But at night, try it. And what you're going to hear is all these BS ready.gov public service announcements where they tell you to go to a website. Going to a website isn't going to help you unless you go to this website, InfoWarsStore.com. Get your 50% off now, and then you'll have something that will actually help you should a natural disaster occur. Okay, so why is it so hot in Chicago in September? Every year, the Chicago Tribune would publish, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. You can send the comments or the angry mail to angrymail@Infowars.com. Don't send it to me. Although if you do want to follow me on Twitter, I do have a copy of Hillary's America. I'm going to give away to 6 people. I have 6 copies of this. But if you looked in the Tribune every year, at this time of year, they traditionally would print a story called Indian Summer. And it's a story about how every year at this time, if it was a certain year and the climate was right and the weather was right, you'd get another burst of summer, and they called it Indian Summer or Indian Summer. And they were referencing feathers, not dots. Today, of course, I don't know if they actually put that article in the Tribune. I don't get the Tribune. I don't know that anybody else does. I don't know that anybody reads a newspaper anymore. But every year, my dad would cut it out of the newspaper. It was really beautiful. It had a nice picture on the top, and it had the story of Indian Summer. And in it had beautiful artwork where they would show the cascading smoke from a fire, you know, like a campfire that an Indian might have had in the teepees and all that sort of stuff, a Native American, okay? And the story behind the Indian Summer is that every few years or every year or so, you might get a burst of warm weather, and it was like a little bit of a gift from nature, and you enjoyed it, and it's been happening for decades, if not centuries, if not millennia. And so I don't think it has anything to do with cows farting in the southern hemisphere or the northern hemisphere or any of those hemispheres for that matter. Thanks for listening. I've had a great time filling in for the 4th hour of Alex Jones Show today here on a beautiful Friday. God willing, if the world is still around Monday and they haven't changed their mind, I will be doing 4th hour on Monday from Chicago. Hopefully in the air conditioning. I may still have a cigar. Have a fantastic weekend. God bless you. Get to InfoWarsStore.com and get your 50% off now. Might as well. Have a great weekend. Talk to you Monday.
Let's go to Debit in Florida. Debit in Florida, you're on the air.
Great. Hey, thank you so much. Listen, I have bought your product, and I gotta say they're amazing. Anyone who's on the fence, buy it, because I've got Caveman, Superman Vitality, Secret 12, Vitamin Mineral Fusion. I've got the body armor.
Wow, thank you. Wow. You're the type of listener that makes it all possible. Which nutraceutical does you like best?
I really like the Vitamin Mineral Fusion, to be honest. That's
amazing.
Really incredible. I drank it in the morning, and I swear to you, I felt incredible. Like I haven't felt weak. My morning was fantastic, and I love you guys. I love the InfoWars crew, and I just want to, I want to take this opportunity to tell anybody out there who's on the fence. Just buy it. You will love it. I'm telling you, I've never bought a bad product.
What you find in our news is the same thing you find in our products at InfoWarsLife.com. It's a win-win, InfoWarsLife.com.